Manga begins with Haruka, the protagonist of the story, finds himself near to a goblin nest. The goblins are able to notice him as he is attempting to sneak away from them. The goblins begin to pursue him, but he is able to successfully capture them by luring them into a trap as they follow him. At this very moment, he is tying his life in a different world alone. The story of how Haruka found himself in a different world is told by him. This happened the day that he was transported to this world. During the break, he was, as he consistently does, reading a book. Even when he was in his own world, he was a loner person. Due to the fact that the majority of his classmates were delinquents and some of them were either athletes or overachievers, he did not want to interact with them. He was known to be close with the otakus, and he frequently questioned the reason he was enrolled in a class with a large number of students who were disruptive. At that moment, a magical circle engulfed the entire classroom and engulfed everyone inside. For a brief period of time, he was ecstatic. However, upon further reflection, he discovered that the alternative world was problematic. As a result of this, he continued to make attempts to leave the classroom, but he was unsuccessful. He was under the impression that escaping through the windows would not be successful, so he attempted the final option, which was to go up to the attic. However, in the end, he was unable to escape what was unavoidable. In the next moment, he finds himself in a room that is entirely white, and he is perplexed as to where the typical fat king and the beautiful princess who are supposed to be greeting him are. After that, he spots an elderly man in the distance and wonders if he is possibly lost. When Haruka is seen, the elderly man is taken aback and inquires as to why he is still present. After that, the elderly man reads Haruka's thoughts, which leads Haruka to believe that the individual must be some kind of divine being. After that, Haruka begins to think of insulting things that he has said about God, and the god implores him to stop talking about their relationship. In response to the god's statement that other people have already entered another world, Haruka explains that he was in a different room from the others. The god inquires as to the reason he was in a different location, to which he responds that he might be aware of the reason. On the other hand, Haruka laughs at the god when he says that he forgot about the attic, but the god responds by saying that he is not all-powerful. Following that, the god conveys to him that he still has the opportunity to catch up with his classmates and instructs him to select his skills for the purpose of his preparation. Haruka is curious about the possibility of becoming a hero, but the god tells him that everything is on a first-come, first-served basis. Following this, he confronts God in a furious manner, referring to him as an elderly man, and tells him not to give him that. However, God responds by saying that he might have something good left over. Following this, the god presents him with a board of skills, but it appears that there is nothing left, which causes him to become enraged. Following that, the god instructs him to read the descriptions of the skills, and he decides to give it a shot. Haruka then realizes that he has 50 points at the moment, and he determines that he has the option of either allocating those points to his statistics or purchasing 2 roll dice with 6 points each, which can give him a maximum of 12 points. Then he takes a look at the equipment section, but he is dissatisfied because the only sets that are still available are trash items. After that, he makes his way to the section to purchase martial arts, but everything with the exception of cane arts is sold out. Everything in the magic section is sold out with the exception of some useless magic, and the only skills that are still available in the skills section are the normal skills. In the section devoted to special traits and titles, there are a few peculiar things that have been left over, and they bring to mind his previous world in a peculiar way. The sight of all the skills makes him feel disheartened, and he begins to question whether or not he would even make it through the tutorial area. Then, in a fit of rage, he looks at God, but he quickly turns his gaze away. After that, Haruka gives the god a lengthy lecture, and the god responds by saying that it was impossible to prevent it from happening because he had summoned a greater number of people than before, and he had failed to notice that Haruka was absent. The god then abruptly informs him that he has made the decision to bestow upon him all of the remaining skills. However, the man argues with the god, stating that he does not want those skills that are of no use to him. In the aftermath of that, he instructs the god to remain calm, but the god immediately bids him farewell and whisks him away to another world. As a result of the god's unannounced transportation of Haruka and the fact that he is not given sufficient time to prepare for his journey, Haruka becomes enraged. Then he becomes aware of a bag that is lying next to him, examines the contents of the bag, and asserts that he is aware of what it is. After that, Haruka puts on his equipment, which he discovers inside the bag, and he remarks, "This generic villager as set is pretty neat." Following that, he goes on to check his statistics. At that moment, the god uses telepathy to instruct him to roll the dice that he has been given, which causes Haruka to question whether or not the god has truly provided him with every skills that are still available. Both of the dice are rolled simultaneously, and he ends up with the letter M. This M is a mystery to Haruka. She has no idea what it might mean. He is hoping that it is not for the word minus, or may it mean masochist? He is asked by the god to refrain from thinking such nonsense, and to consider how he would like to distribute his statistics. The response that Haruka gives is that he wants to concentrate on luck because he does not have any hope in his current strength. After giving it a lot of thought, the god responds by saying that he wants to spend all of it on luck. He said this after being asked how much he would like to add. Following that, his status board materializes in front of him, and he becomes aware that his luck stat has reached its maximum value. Additionally, he is aware of all the pointless abilities that he did not want to select. Additionally, he possesses a bonus skill that enables him to control minions and underlings, despite the fact that the loner skill he obtained prevents him from forming any party members. He is initially taken aback by the idea that he will not be able to form members of the party. However, he quickly comes to the realization that this is irrelevant because he has always been an individual who prefers to be alone. Following that, Haruka walks for a while, but he is unable to see any of his classmates who were transported before him. In a loud voice, he declares that the first thing he needs to do is locate a place to stay and some food in order to survive. However, the forest that he is in makes it difficult for him to see, and if a monster suddenly appears out of nowhere, it is possible that he will not be able to survive using his ability. After that, he begins to recall that the god had given him contact lenses, and that after he had tried them on, everything became as clear as day. Not only does his vision become clearer, but he is also able to view descriptions of a variety of different entities. Through the use of the lenses, he examines his status bar, and as a result, he immediately improves his inspection ability. Through the utilization of his inspection ability, his perception becomes more distinct, which in turn makes the process of looking for something simpler. As a result of this, he discovers a mushroom known as the plop shroom and discovers that it can be consumed. Not only is it possible for him to carry as many materials as he desires in his bag, but he can also use it to store all of his medications, which is a very convenient option. He then looks around the forest, and he notices a light that is so bright that it makes him curious. As he makes his way towards the light, he comes across a river at the extremity of the path. After that, he satisfies his thirst by filling his bag with that water and drinking its contents. On the other hand, he suddenly gets the impression that he is noticing something in a different direction, and as he gets closer, he realizes that it is a cave. Later, he sneaks into the cave in a stealthy manner, hoping that it is not a place where monsters hide out. Following his entrance into the cave, he is relieved to discover that it is devoid of any inhabitants. He takes a look around the cave and is pleased to see that the interior of the cave appears to be spacious and comfortable. After that, he pulls out from his item bag a magic tent and a magic lantern, both of which are effective in warding off hostile creatures and insects. For the purpose of elevating the temperature, he brings out some firewood that he had gathered earlier and uses temperature magic. He is able to successfully create a bonfire, and before going to sleep, he checks his statistics because he is beginning to feel quite exhausted. He is aware that his temperature magic has reached a higher level, and he has acquired fire magic. Through spending the entire day looking around the forest, he was able to acquire skills such as Thousand Miles Eyes, Present Sense, and Enemy Location Detection. When he wakes up the following morning, he immediately becomes alert, but he is surprised to find that nothing has gone wrong. It was clear to him that the reason for this was the tent, the lantern, and the ability known as Hikami, which safeguards the user's residence. Following that, he begins to feel hungry, so he cooks the mushrooms that he purchased the day before, along with some jerky, and then he proceeds to make his breakfast. After he has tasted the food that he has prepared, he is content with the way it tastes. It is mentioned that he obtained some cooking equipment from the villager set, and he inquires as to the reason why the set was customized to focus on survival. Following that, he organizes his thoughts regarding what he should do from that point on. The cave is suitable for him to use as his home, so the next most important things for him to do are to make sure he has food and to take precautions to protect himself. After that, he was looking for supplies in the forest when he came across two goblins, which caused him to become frightened. Although goblins were supposed to be relatively minor, their statistics appeared to be higher than those of Haruka. He is aware that he will have to come up against them at some point, and given that he is undetected, he has the ability to launch an unexpected assault. The opportunity presented itself to him, so he sneaked up on a goblin and ambushed it from behind his back. It is then that he uses his wooden stick to knock the goblin down, but while he is busy attacking, the other goblin notices him. As the goblin continues to charge at him with its club, Haruka is able to easily avoid the attack because he has become accustomed to the pattern of the goblin's movements. After that, he uses his stick to perform a stabbing attack, and eventually he is able to defeat the goblin with a single blow. Following the conclusion of the conflict, he washes himself by the river and finds himself filled with joy as he contemplates his first victory. In the meantime, he constructs a straightforward wooden door for the entrance of the cave and mulls over the possibility of examining the wooden club that he obtained from earlier. According to the inspection that he performs on the club, it is merely stated that it is a wooden club. He gives up on the club and makes the decision to investigate his current situation. Additionally, when he opens his status window, he notices that he has increased his level from 1 to 2. In addition to this, he observed that his cane arts level had increased to 2, but he was unsure of the reason why his sensitivity had increased. It is on the third day that he expresses his desire for meat, as he has grown weary of consuming nothing but mushrooms. His thoughts turn to the memories of his class president, and he thinks about how she would have reprimanded him for saying that. After that, he finishes his breakfast and contemplates ways to improve his strength so that he can compete against more powerful monsters. The next thing he does is open his skill menu and test out the magic collection skill, which is a skill that strengthens the body by collecting magic power with it. Nevertheless, he lets out a sigh of relief because the skill he was acquiring was superior to the pointless items he had obtained from the White Room. He gets rid of his thoughts that aren't necessary and raises his voice to proclaim that he has the blessing of the forest. A few hours later, he realized that he had grown weary of collecting nothing but mushrooms all the time and suggested that it would be more beneficial for him to practice magic. After taking a few deep breaths, he puts his magic collection skills into overdrive. He then puts his new ability to the test and discovers that he has significantly increased his speed in comparison to his previous state. Not only that, but he also uses his stick to launch some attacks, and he notices that there is a significant difference in his agility. It is not difficult for him to defeat a goblin that is of a higher level than the one he defeated before, and even 2 goblins are no match for him. He examines his stick and realizes that the magic collections effect extends to it. He is surprised by this discovery. After that, Haruka begins to question whether or not he ought to confront 3 goblins at the same time, but the very idea of doing so causes him to feel terrified. He then went goblin hunting in the afternoon on day 4, and then he spent the night researching magic and carpentry. After that, he went back to his job. Subsequently, on the 5th day, he was successful in defeating a goblin with a single blow and made the interior at his base appear to be lavish. In light of the fact that he hasn't consumed any meat in quite some time, he goes after a rabbit after he has finished with all of that. Eventually, he is successful in capturing the rabbit, but all of a sudden, he becomes aware of a presence that is not that of a goblin. It is through the use of his perception skill that he becomes aware of a few of his classmates strolling around the clearing. These individuals were the misbehaving students in his class, and he was not pleased to see them coming into his presence. As Haruka listens in on their conversation, she overhears them discussing the enormous breasts of their vice president of the class. They reach the conclusion of their conversation and make the decision to return home after the sun has set. Haruka felt a sense of relief as they made their way back because the conversation they had was more excruciating than the speech that their principal had delivered. He didn't come across very much information that was helpful. Upon further investigation, he discovered that they were plotting against the girls. However, the president of the class was able to see through their schemes and foil them. On the other hand, the individual who has been consistently overcoming the children who have been a problem ever since elementary school is the president of their superclass. The following thing that he discovered was that the geeks are doing well, which is to be expected given that they are geeks who are attempting to conquer a fantasy world. Haruka recalls the criminals discussing Tanaka, who is instructing them in various skills. Tanaka is teaching some of them. Despite the fact that he does not like it, he is certain that if they rely on Tanaka and call him out, he will not have a choice in the matter. Following that, he returns to his house, where he is under the impression that everyone else is in a better position than he is. After checking his status the following morning, he is perplexed to discover that his loner title has been elevated to the level of 2. After that, he speculates that it could be due to the fact that he is staying by himself, and he stated that it would have been a cause for concern if his neat title had also been leveled up. However, his primary level is still 3, and this is due to the fact that he possessed titles such as Jack of all trades and unproductiveness. The fact that he is a master of all trades prevents him from concentrating on a single skill and honing it, but it does enable him to acquire knowledge in a variety of areas. However, his inability to accomplish anything renders his lack of productivity completely pointless. After that, he contemplates the possibility of ceasing his internal monologue. To divert his attention, he begins to engage in binge eating. While he was chewing on some mushrooms, he broke down in tears because he had a desire to consume some fish on day 7 at the very least. The obnoxious noise that came from outside jolted him awake while he was dreaming about going fishing. After that, he makes the decision to investigate it and wonders whether the criminals are going to cause a commotion. After that, he makes use of his 1,000-mile eyes and notices that his fellow nerds are engaged in combat with some goblins. Since it appeared to him that they were having difficulty, he made the decision to use the inspection skill in order to learn more about them. After looking at her statistics and titles, he has the impression that they will be fine. He is perplexed as to why he is the only one who is currently without a job. Once that is over, he begins to make his way back, thinking that everything will be all right, but then he notices that some goblins are sneaking up on them. After that, he makes a hasty rush to assist them and uses his wooden stick attack to vanquish the goblins. Following that, he makes a cool appearance in front of his friends, and they are amazed to see him. As a result of the fact that he hadn't communicated with anyone in a while, Haruka was at a loss for words when they expressed their gratitude to him for saving them. They responded to Haruka's inquiry about how they are doing by saying that they are attempting to flee. Haruka then invites his friends who are also geeks to his house, and they are astonished by how fashionable it appears to them. They inquire as to whether he made it on his own, and because the situation was becoming increasingly noisy, he makes the decision to help calm things down by offering them juice to drink. Following their tasting of the juice, they were awestruck by its flavor and inquired about the source of the sweet nuts that he discovered in the forest. Haruka was actually following a bird while thinking about fried chicken, and it was during this time that he came across those nuts. This was all made possible by the blessing of the forest skill that he possessed. Following this, Haruka inquired as to what they meant by the term running away, and they proceeded to inform him about the 1 week of school that he had missed. There was a day when everyone else was transported into the forest via teleportation. At first, it seems as though there was a great deal of confusion surrounding the situation, particularly after the delinquents and the mean girls began to cause a racket in the neighborhood. The only person who managed to maintain their composure was the president of the class, while the geeks were busy exchanging information about their current status and examining their abilities and equipment. One wave of monsters was drawn to that racket, and even the dependable president of the class was paralyzed with fear as a result of their presence. The other girls then began crying even louder, and the moment they saw the monsters, even the delinquents who had been joking around stopped in their tracks. Then the other girls began crying even louder. On the other hand, it was none other than the Geek Squad that was responsible for putting an end to all of that confusion. They began to fight back against the goblins without uttering a single word, and as they continued to push back, the athletic team began to fight as well, and it appeared that they had won in some way. Following that, the president of the class overcame her fear and led everyone to a river that appeared to be safe. Due to the fact that the geeks took the initiative to start a bonfire and set up tents, it appeared as though they were prepared for something of this nature, and as a result, they had been practicing their survival skills in secret. After a few days had passed, when everyone had finally caught their composure, the conversation began. The distribution of work, the rotation of night watch, and the problem of sustenance were all topics that were discussed. While she was expressing her own ideas, the president of the class would occasionally consult with the geeks for guidance, and as a result, she was able to gradually bring the class together. After the class was brought together, there was a sense that everything would be resolved in some way, and everyone's emotions became unified. This is what should have happened, but there were things that went wrong. The mean girls began to express their belief that they were no longer capable of doing it, and that boys should be the ones to carry out activities of this nature. However, they responded that they have no interest in working together, despite the fact that the class president was trying to convince them to do so by stating that she is also working and telling them to collaborate. Following that, the boys raised their voices in protest of the injustice, but the mean girls suggested that they should demand that the geeks take care of all of the work. Immediately after that, they began to argue with one another, which ultimately led to the dissolution of the discussions. Haruka, after hearing the entire story, expresses that he finds it extremely disheartening and that he feels sorry for the person who is in charge of the class. Following that, there is a period of silence, and the geeks then request additional juice. As a response, Haruka stated that he would leave. He inquired as to whether or not they meant that they had become weary of the situation and fled, leaving the president behind. Their response was that they were powerless to do anything else, and that this was only the beginning of their story. Although Haruka was still upset with them for abandoning the class president, they told him to listen to the rest of their story. Haruka was still angry with them. In addition to the fact that the geeks were compelled to collect food and provide protection for the base, they claimed that it was the worst-case scenario. There were a few students who collaborated with the president, but the rest of the students did not even contribute. Despite being in such a difficult position, the geeks continued to engage in proactive combat against the monsters. As a result of the revelation that someone possessed the evil skills of fascination and puppetry, which enabled them to exert control over other individuals, this occurred. Just as was to be expected, a few individuals began to behave in a different manner, and the criminals began to increase their level of activity in the vicinity of the camp. When the delinquents were talking loudly about their plans to create a harem, the geeks who were keeping an eye on them participated in the conversation. In an effort to foil the plan, they hurriedly informed the president about the threat, and she made a decision to begin increasing her level as well. Over the course of a few days, the juvenile offenders eventually acquired the skills necessary for puppetry and fascination. Then, by chance, the most beautiful person in the school, who was also the president of the class, came across them, and of course, they were excited to attempt to demonstrate their abilities. On the other hand, just a few seconds later, they were all defeated and lying on the ground. After that, the criminals were driven out of the base after their plan to obtain slaves was unsuccessful. That night, however, the criminals took advantage of a breach in the defense in order to launch an assault on the base. Extensive damage was done, and the base was completely destroyed by the fire. After that, for some reason, the responsibility was transferred to the geeks, and despite the fact that the president's group stood up for them, the geeks were expelled from the group. When Haruka has finished listening to their entire story, she expresses her compassion for them and apologizes for picking on them. During the celebration, he mentioned that they would be having a mushroom party, but the geeks responded by saying that they are currently exhausted from eating mushrooms. On day 9, Haruka says goodbye to his friends and cautions them to be careful not to be caught by the class. He also tells them to enjoy their time together. When they asked him if he was certain that he would not be joining them, he responded unequivocally with a negative. Haruka is of the opinion that they might attempt to become adventurers. However, he does not intend to join them because he will be able to inhibit their progress with his ineffective abilities. Afterwards, he contemplates what he ought to do today, and after giving it a lot of thought, he comes to the conclusion that he ought to check their base. While he was traveling there, he came across a kobold that was considered to be level 11. He suffered a bite, but he managed to ward it off in some way. He continued to walk, despite the slight discomfort he was experiencing, and eventually he found the base. After the geeks had left, the fence and tents were seen to be in a state of disrepair, and he believes that nobody attempted to repair them. He then begins to speculate about whether or not they moved, but based on what he has heard, he is of the opinion that this is not the case. In the aftermath of that, he makes use of his perception ability to locate some footprints on the ground, and then makes an attempt to follow them. He activates 1000 MIs while he is out on the trail, and he notices something that is quite a distance away. He is aware of something approaching him, and he has the impression that he has witnessed something similar in the past. Immediately after that, he is taken aback when he sees the mean girls. In addition, the girls tell him to wait while he is attempting to flee the scene. After that, the girls continue to yell at him to wait, but Haruka is under the impression that he is having a bad luck event because he has run into the mean girls of all people. Following that, Haruka reluctantly extends a greeting to them, and in the instant that follows, he makes an attempt to flee by claiming that he is compelled to leave. Haruka comes to the realization that he would have been content with anyone else besides the girls as a consequence of the fact that the girls start to pursue him. During the time that the girls are pursuing him, they make a request to him to wait for their turn. After Haruka has finally come to a stop, he is taken aback and begins to wonder if he actually heard the mask for him. He is unsure of whether or not he heard the mask for him. The head of the girls informed him that they are aware of the fact that he is having a positive relationship with the geeks and that they are looking for them. In addition, they express their desire to find them. He then makes a joke about their name, but she explains that they are serious and tells him to stop making jokes about them. After that, he continues to make jokes about their name. Following that, Haruka inquires about the reason why they are looking for them, and she responds by saying that it is because they want to express their regret for what their actions have been. Each and every one of the girls expressed their desire to extend a heartfelt apology to the geeks and stated that it was due to them that they were able to persevere through this for such a considerable amount of time. In her statement, she expressed her desire to acquire knowledge regarding their destination. The extent to which their temperament had changed was beyond Haruka's ability to comprehend during this period of time. It is within his power to provide assistance to them if he so chooses. However, he does not want to add any additional strain to the geeks, who have already been through a great deal during this time. In his subsequent response, he expresses his regret that they will not be able to catch up to them and says that it is unfortunate. In their response, the girls reported that everything was fine and that the only thing they wanted was to be informed of their location. Haruka, on the other hand, inquired about whether or not they are able to combat monsters and whether or not they are aware of how to get out of the forest. Almost immediately after that, he delivers a threatening lecture to them about the wrongdoings that they have committed, and as soon as they hear it, the girls start crying. Haruka is pleased with his self-assurance for speaking back to them, but all of a sudden, the girls begin crying in protest that they do not want to die and be devoured by monsters. Haruka is pleased with his self-assurance. After that, the girls beg him to teach them how to survive, and all of a sudden, Haruka's ability to subjugate takes effect, and all of them are subdued without any resistance. Haruka is enraged as a result of the fact that all of the girls follow him back to his house like a duckling after that, which causes him to return home. They have been behaving in an odd manner and keeping their silence as a result of the effect that his ability to subjugate has had on them. He also finds it unsettling that their eyes appear lifeless, as if they were members of some kind of cult. This is something that he finds unsettling. They then proceed to extract the magic stone and present it to the adversary while they continue to weaken him and deliver the finishing blow to him in a manner that is completely silent. Afterwards, he notices that one of the girls is hurt, and he gives her a healing potion in order to help her recover from her injury. Immediately after that, the young lady splatters the potion on him, which causes him to become enraged because he is unable to tolerate the offensive odor. Haruka is taking notice of the president of the class, which is a surprising development. As Haruka travels, he begins to question whether or not it is actually him. In a hurry, the president of the class approaches him and makes an attempt to call him, but Haruka is so preoccupied with his thoughts that he is unable to catch her voice. The class president is persistent in her efforts to attract his attention, but she is unsuccessful. After that, she yells over his head in a loud voice, which causes him to regain his composure. He then takes notice of her and addresses her as Sama, the president of the class. However, she becomes enraged at him for addressing her in such a manner because they have known each other for a considerable amount of time. After noticing the girls that he had subdued, she inquired about what had become of them and the reason that they were with him. He went on to tell her that he had accidentally used his subjugation skill on them, and he responded by saying that it was a long story. When she hears this, she yells at him in a commanding manner, which causes the majority of the girls to come to their senses. In the aftermath of that, Haruka has the impression that everyone is staring at him with a cold expression as she questions him about the reasons he did that. Although he makes a casual attempt to flee, the girls prevent him from doing so and inform him that he is not going anywhere. It is the president of the class who makes an effort to rouse Shimazaki, the leader of the mean girls, and after some time has passed, she comes back to her senses, which brings the president a sense of relief. Shimazaki is questioned about the entire situation, and Haruka is informed that she will not permit him to flee his confinement. Haruka is annoyed that he is not included in the conversation that the girls are having, so in order to pass the time, he practices his expansion magic. The president yells his name and inquires as to the reason he is buried underground after a period of time has passed. Despite the fact that Haruka responded that he had nothing to do, she was referring to him as a cat that had become buried under the sofa. He is informed that she has heard the entire story about him assisting Oda's group in transferring to Shimazaki group, and that everyone then expresses their gratitude to him. Despite the fact that Haruka asked if he could leave at this moment, they asked him if it was the appropriate time to say something like that. The president inquired about the location of his return, to which he casually responded that he would be returning to his usual residence. They are taken aback when they hear it, and they inquire as to why he has a house in a different world. He responds by saying that he built it himself, A second meeting is then held with all of the girls, and after some time has passed, she inquires about the maximum number of people that can be accommodated in his residence. In a casual manner, he responds that his home has the capacity to accommodate 240 individuals and that it also has a kitchen, a bathroom, and a washroom. Upon hearing it, she is taken aback and inquires about the type of mansion he has been residing in. She then reveals that, from their perspective, they have been living in a rough environment. The girls then indicate to her that they would like to reside in his house, and she asks Haruka, with some reluctance, if he would be willing to allow them to reside in his home. After a period of time, Haruka feels embarrassed when she thinks about all of the girls who are staying at his house. She tells him that they are shameless, but the president responds by saying that he is the one who was embarrassed. After that, he meticulously leads them through the forest, and at last he extends a warm welcome to everyone inside his home. Everyone is taken aback when they enter his home because of the enormous amount of space that is contained within it. After that, everyone begins to rejoice because they will no longer have to worry about trying to survive. Haruka is left feeling embarrassed as everyone rushes inside and removes their clothes all of a sudden. After that, they make their way towards the bath. But in the meantime, Haruka is pondering whether or not their time spent in the forest has caused them to become more barbaric. While the girls are taking a bath inside his house, Haruka goes outside and sets up a magical tent while they are bathing. When he finally makes it inside the tent, he is ecstatic because he is able to take pleasure in his own personal space. Following that, the president of the class unexpectedly walks into his tent and conveys her appreciation for the assistance that she has provided. In the story that she tells him, she describes how all of the other guys left them after the mean girls drove Oda's group out of the group. In the end, she becomes pessimistic and claims that she has not accomplished anything. But Haruka reassures her by stating that she has been searching for them and protecting them throughout this entire length of time. She denies it, claiming that she hasn't done anything in comparison to Oda and the others, but Haruka confirms that she is not like them. She says that she is not like them. She gives him a grin and tells him that she is feeling much better now. She also tells him that he is really cool. Haruka experienced a sense of unease inside his tent after that, and he was unable to get a good night's sleep. The girls were sleeping inside his house at the time. He is roused from his sleep on day 12 by a young lady who informs him that breakfast is ready to be served inside his tent. Haruka, in the meantime, is taken aback and begins to wonder what is going on and who she is after being startled. Even though Haruka has assured her that he will get up in half an hour, the girl approaches him while he is in a stimulating position and inquires as to the reason he does not intend to get up. It is then that the girl mentions that they are going to have fish and mushrooms for breakfast, and the mere fact that Haruka hears this causes him to become so excited that he accidentally sends her flying with a headbang. Following that, he takes a bite out of the grilled fish that the girls have prepared, and he immediately begins crying with joy because it has been a very long time since he has eaten fish. Given the proximity of the river, the president inquired as to whether or not he had witnessed any of them. His response was that he had observed them while he was eating mushrooms by the water's edge. She inquired as to why he had not been able to capture them at that time, and he responded by stating that the fish are slimy and difficult to capture. He then inquired of the girls whether they knew of any more effective methods of catching fish. As a result, one of the girls takes the time to prepare her lightning magic and promises to demonstrate it to him. Through the use of her lightning magic, she causes all of the fish in the river to be electrocuted and die. Haruka is astonished to see this, and she even inquired about the possibility of doing it once more. Following that, she prepared her lightning magic, and Haruka borrowed her magic by encasing it in his skill known as packaging. Subsequently, he throws the packaged lighting into the river, and as a result, he is successful in catching a fish and also acquires knowledge of the lightning spell simultaneously. After that, the president inquired about what he did, so he explained how his packaging skill operates and mentioned that it might be able to learn the skill that corresponds to the one that it captures. Following that, he goes on to explain the issue of slow leveling that he experiences as a result of his jack-of-all-trades skill, but the president retorts that it is sufficient to absorb the magic of another individual. He responded that he was unable to compare himself to them because they had acquired a great deal of cheating skills. He then inquired about what they had decided to do from this point forward and informed them that he would be willing to renovate his home if they wished to remain there. In response, the president stated that they have not yet made a decision, but their general thought is that they will go to a town. Haruka inquired as to whether or not the mean girls were going to go on a hunt for geeks, but they responded that they were going to apologize rather than go on a hunt for them. According to Haruka, the president has informed him that they have been considering increasing their level, and he has stated that he will assist them in doing so. After that, he gathers all of the girls in the forest and inquires about their level, starting from the right and working his way to the left. Every one of the young ladies provides an answer regarding their levels, with the highest being 21 and the lowest being 16. Given that Haruka was pleased with himself for reaching level 7 the day before, he is taken aback by the information regarding their level. In the aftermath of that, he observes 3 kobolds hiding in the bushes, and he instructs them to vanquish them because they are of a low level. After that, he instructs them to start the fight. But after some time has passed, all of the girls are already lying on the ground, clearly defeated. While this is going on, Haruka is very surprised to see them and has stated that they are pointless. When the battle was over, the girls expressed their dissatisfaction with the fact that they had no idea the kobolds would bite and move so quickly. When Haruka inquired about the activities that were taking place inside his tent, the president responded by stating that they were conducting a post-fight review session. The fish girl from earlier approached him after the review was finished and apologized for her behavior that morning, explaining that she was testing him. She also said that she was testing him. She went on to explain that because the boys who had attacked them the previous time had made them all anxious, they were concerned that he might do the same thing once again. She also stated that they were wrong about him because he provided them with food and shelter, and even taught them how to fight during their time with him. She left claiming that she would come and get him once they had finished cooking the fish the following day, because she felt embarrassed after that. On the 13th day, while Haruka was eating his breakfast, he overheard the girls expressing their desire to exact revenge on the kobolds for the defeat they had suffered the day before. When they were defeated, Haruka was concerned because she did not want to have to carry them back home like she had done the previous time. At the same time that the girls were getting riled up for fighting, the president showed up and informed them that training is the most important thing. Upon hearing that, Haruka felt a sense of relief and thought that the president had done a good job. In light of this, they began their training by engaging in combat with goblins, and eventually, the day of vengeance against the kobolds arrived. The kobolds made fun of the girls, which caused the girls to become enraged at them. As Haruka was pondering whether or not everything would go according to plan, he was taken aback to see that a few of the girls were sleeping and acting as if they were sick. At that moment, one of the kobolds launched an unexpected attack on the girls, but the girls responded to the attack by fighting back against it. In the end, they were successful in defeating the kobolds and consequently celebrated their victory. Haruka was relieved that they were able to defeat the kobolds. However, on the other side of the field, a girl shook hands with a kobold as a sign of sportsmanship, which left him scratching his head. Now that this had occurred, it was high time that they started exploring the remaining parts of the forest and making their way towards the town. Following that, everyone gathered their belongings, including food and other necessities, in preparation for traveling through the forest. They finished packing up their belongings and were finally ready to leave for a town. At the very moment that they were leaving, Haruka called the president of the class and informed her that he had no idea what was going to take place from this point forward and that they should prepare themselves for what lies ahead. However, on the other hand, one of Haruka's classmates ran away from someone out of fear and ended up falling to the ground after stumbling over a rock before falling. He then told a person who appeared to be suspicious that he did not possess any skills similar to that. But the person who appeared to be suspicious choked him and then walked away from the scene in a menacing manner. Because Haruka's team is currently located in the middle of the forest, ensuring their safety is their top priority. This is because the criminals should still be aiming their attention at the girls. As a result, the objective that they have set for themselves is to get out of the forest. The geeks believe that there is a monster in the forest that even Haruka has not yet encountered, and that monster is the orc. Haruka has not witnessed this monster yet. In comparison to everything else he has come across up to this point, it is the most powerful, and he would like to acquire as much experience as he can. It is the president of the class who cautions him to be careful, and he tells the girls to take a step back. After that, he begins his assault on the orc and instructs the girls to watch his fight so that they can use it as a reference later on. Following that, the orc swings his club at him, but he disappears almost immediately. While Haruka is hiding behind a tree, he reports that the orc's movements are uninteresting. Given that orcs have resistance to physical damage, it is reasonable to assume that he will be able to defeat it with a concentrated magic attack. Following that, the orc destroys the tree that he was hiding behind, which leads him to believe that their physical attacks are powerful. After that, the orc launches a barrage of attacks, but Haruka manages to avoid each and every one of them with a narrow escape. After that, Haruka makes an appearance from behind and uses his stick to deliver a powerful blow to the orc's head just as the orc is about to land a powerful blow. After that, the orc is vanquished with a single blow, which comes as a surprise to everyone, including himself. In the midst of Haruka's perplexity regarding the reason behind his success in vanquishing the orc through a physical assault, the young lady yells out that it will never be a point of reference for them. In his response, Haruka stated that it was not his fault because his friend Oda was the one who had provided him with the appropriate information. Following that, he becomes aware of a level 12 orc in the distance and stealthily approaches it, employing the presence erase skill in order to launch a magical attack by using it. After that, he conjures up flame magic in his hand and launches it in the direction of the orc monster. After that, the flame magic strikes the orc's head, and after 2 blows, the orc is successfully vanquished. Haruka remarked that it is peculiar that the orc was defeated so easily once more, and the girls stare at him in astonishment over his statement. They come to the conclusion that it is time to set up camp after that. The girls are having a wonderful time at their camping night when Haruka leaves the area and begins setting traps all around the camping site in order to protect them from any monsters that may be present. Considering that the tents are equipped with monster repellent and that he has insurance, he believes that they will be fine. Even while he is sleeping, he will activate his presence sense. He then activates his newly acquired map skill and checks to see if the river they are following begins to exhibit a significant amount of zigzagging. Suddenly, his presence sense skill detects the presence of another individual, and he is certain that the individual in question is not a monster. Suddenly, a group of his classmates who are members of the athlete group approached him and inquired about his well-being. He became cautious, wondering if they were the group of delinquents. However, they were the group of athletes. Following that, Haruka refers to them as muscle idiots, which causes them to become offended. During this time, the president of the class takes notice of Haruka and observes that he is conversing with a group of individuals. Haruka inquired as to the reason for their visit and whether or not they were some kind of idiot stalkers who tracked down girls during the night. After hearing that, they became enraged and defended themselves by claiming that he was in the wrong. Despite the fact that they were not there for the girls, they informed him that they had business relationships with him. When Haruka inquired as to whether or not they were gay, they stated unequivocally that they were not. After that, Haruka wanted to know once more why they were hiding from the girls. The response from the leader of the athlete group was that the reason for this was because they were unable to trust the girls, since they had abandoned the girls while the camp was being destroyed. Haruka inquired as to whether or not they were the ones who had made that statement. Following the occurrence, the leader responded that he was correct, but that they were unable to trust anyone else. After that, Haruka inquired as to whether or not they were referring to the discovery of puppetry and fascination skills, as well as the reason why they were being cautious of the girls rather than the group of delinquents. Following that, Haruka recalled what the geeks had imparted to him and inquired as to whether or not they were being cautious regarding the plunder skill, which is a skill that takes the skills of other individuals. In his response, the leader stated that he was correct and that the criminals had never informed them about the plunder. In the aftermath of that, Haruka referred to them as idiots and inquired about the actions they would take if he were the one who possessed the plunder skill. As a response, the leader stated that it would be acceptable if he had it, and that it would be a significant relief for them. Haruka responded with a negative and stated that he possessed the subjugation skill when the leader inquired as to whether or not he actually possessed it. After that, the group of athletes went back to the forest to keep an eye out for the miscreants. Additionally, they instructed Haruka to apologize to the class president on behalf of the miscreants as they were leaving. During this time, the president of the class listened to their entire conversation and appeared to be getting anxious. On day 17, everyone was excited about the prospect of embarking on a journey deep within the forest. During this time, Haruka was frightened by their energy and pondered whether or not they had consumed any peculiar mushrooms. In spite of the fact that he had been using inspection to determine whether or not there were other foods besides mushrooms, he discovered a great deal of antidote herbs. Following that, the president of the class called Haruka and informed her that she had something to contribute to the discussion regarding the athlete group. She was informed by Haruka that they intended to apologize to her, but all of a sudden, the president of the class shared with him that she had apologized. Afterwards, just as she was about to make a statement regarding her ability, Haruka informed her that he was already aware of the fact that she possessed the plunder ability. The fact that he already knew it, despite the fact that she had only told Oda's group about it, came as a complete surprise to her. She inquired as to whether or not he was not frightened by her ability to plunder, but he responded that there was no reason to be frightened because the specialists were not afraid of her. After that, Haruka informed her that it was a tremendous relief instead because the geeks did not seal her plunder skill after they had sealed her puppet and fascination during the uproar. Following her hearing him, the president of the class began crying, and Haruka shared with her that she had been crying quite a bit recently. After that, the president of the class smiled and told him that it was his fault. However, Haruka did not understand what she was saying and managed to escape the situation while claiming that he was innocent. Immediately following Haruka's departure, the president of the class expressed gratitude to him for everything he had done for them. When they were moving through the forest after that, Haruka had the impression that they were moving at a faster pace than initially anticipated. Because they needed to set up camp as soon as possible, he wanted to select a spot that was close to a river that was flowing and that was free of any monsters. In addition, he was interested in trying something new, so he approached the president of the class and inquired about the possibility of conducting some reconnaissance ahead of time. She inquired as to whether or not she should accompany him, but he told her to remain where she was and indicated that he was merely taking a look. After that, he activated his magic collection skill and weight magic while he was running in order to lighten his body. After that, he made a tremendous leap into the air and was astounded by the height to which he could jump. He increased his speed and lightweighted himself by jumping from branch to branch. He also decreased his weight. Following that, he got a head start that was lightning fast and jumped so high that it appeared as though he was flying. Then, however, Newton's law began to take effect, and he began to fall to the ground. As he fell, he tripped over a number of branches, and after landing, he barely survived the fall due to the fact that his body had been strengthened by the magic collection. In light of the fact that he discovered, while looking down from above, that they could have taken a significant shortcut, he stated that it was not entirely in vain. When he returned to the girls, the president of the class was taken aback to see him in such a poor condition and inquired as to the reason why he appeared to be in such a state based on a simple reconnaissance. He went on to explain that he had fallen from the sky while attempting to get a better view of the terrain, but she gave him a lecture about how falling from the sky is a more dangerous situation than being attacked by monsters. After that, Haruka made an effort to cheer her up by claiming that he had brought some fruits to make juice, but the other girls became more excited than she did. One day later, on day 18, they were able to leave the forest much more quickly as a result of the reconnaissance that had been done the day before. There were a lot of things that took place in the interim, including things like finding members who had gone missing and playing by the riverside. There were also things that took place, such as being pursued by monsters and a lot of other things. They had to endure a great deal of difficulty before they were finally able to emerge from the confines of the forest. Haruka attempted to use his 1,000 Miles Eyes ability to check a little further after he emerged from the forest. However, the hills were in the way of his progress. After that, he pondered whether or not he ought to take flight in order to check out what lay ahead, and before he knew it, he began walking while in the air. It dawned on him that he was in the air, and he discovered that he possessed the ability to walk through the air. After that, the president of the class called out to him from the ground, and while she was pointing in a particular direction, she instructed him to check it using the 1,000 Miles Eyes. Haruka then activated his ability, and after zooming in that direction, he noticed that some individuals were being attacked by monsters. He then proceeded to zoom in further. There were a total of 6 people present, and he could see some elderly men dressed in armor. As Haruka descended, the president of the class inquired as to whether or not those individuals would be successful on their own. Haruka was aware that it was not uncommon for people to be attacked by monsters in that world. However, they were unsure as to whether or not the individuals in question were trustworthy. He was of the opinion that the girls were overly naive because they had the same experience with the juvenile offenders, who chased them out despite the fact that they were aware of their malicious intentions. During the time that Haruka was spending a lot of time contemplating the situation, the president of the class announced that she wanted to save those individuals and instructed everyone to get ready. Following that, Haruka informed her that they would not arrive in time and inquired about her plans in the event that they were discovered to be thieves. She responded by saying that she would fight back if they turned out to be bad people, but that she wanted to help them in the event that they were not bad people. Haruka smiled and thought to himself that he had anticipated that she would say something similar. Following that, Haruka informed them that he would be back in a moment and instructed them to take care of themselves. Because he was aware that he would not be able to make it in time by running, The only option that remained for him was to take a chance that he had devised. His body was first strengthened through the use of magic collection, and then he became weightless through the use of weight magic. Following that, he utilized wind magic, which he had learned the day before, and he was able to triumph over it. This was followed by him combining all of the skills and leaping off the ground with an incredible amount of speed. As he was flying, he had the sensation that he could go anywhere, but all of a sudden, he turned around to look behind him because he had the sensation that something was attached to his back. After that, he was taken aback when he happened to see the president of the class. He inquired as to the reason for her presence, to which she responded that she had been caught in the crossfire of his magic. She then instructed him to look in front of him and put an end to his magic, but he responded by saying that moving objects cannot be brought to a halt all of a sudden. After that, both of them crashed to the ground, and as a result of the impact of the landing, all of the monsters were finally vanquished. Following the clearing of the smoke, Haruka inquired about the well-being of those individuals. After observing his condition, they inquire as to whether or not he is sound. Guys express their gratitude to Haruka for saving them. While this is going on, the president of the class is unconscious. After, the leader of the party is introduced by one of the guys, and Getek is the name of the other guy at this point in the conversation. As a result of Haruka's efforts, all of their friends are safe when they arrive in town, and they promise to do whatever it takes to make Haruka happy. When Haruka inquires as to whether or not they mean girls when they say thank you, they respond by saying that they will continue this conversation in town. A request for subjugation was submitted by the guild, according to Ofter, because the green wolves were attacking the merchants. It was mentioned to them that there wouldn't be too many, but given that there were more than 30 of them, they would have been put to death. After that, Haruka shares that he observed a large wolf among the pack, and Getek responds by saying that this is unfortunate information. Because he has nothing to do until the rest of the girls arrive, Haruka watches them as they organize their cargo. He is waiting for them to finally arrive. Due to the fact that the girls are still quite a distance away and the president of the class is unconscious, he decides to kill some time by grilling some strength mushrooms using fire magic. After that, he distributes them to everyone, and after they have consumed them, GIC comments that the mushrooms are very tasty, and the girls are amazed by how powerful the effects of recovery are. Although it makes Haruka happy to see them happy, the fact that his after party is full of beautiful women makes him envious. This is because Haruka is unable to throw a party due to his ability to maintain his solitude. Following this, the president comes to, and upon seeing Haruka, she inquires as to the reason why he is in attack mode. Following that, they reunite with the rest of the group, and they immediately become obsessed with the elf women, acting like a group of rabid fangirls. After that, Ofter leads them to the town, and a few hours later, Ofter and Getek show them the town and tell them that it is called Omu. As soon as they see the town, all of the girls are overjoyed, and they begin to run as if they were children to get there. Following the drawing of a line on the ground by the president of the class, the students finally enter the town together while grasping each other's hands simultaneously. The delinquent group, on the other hand, has completed their leveling up and has announced that it is now time to locate the girls and launch an assault. A mysterious boy suddenly tells the leader, Katsuyama, to unseal their fascination and puppetry skill before launching an attack on the girls. The delinquent boys are excited to play with the girls, but they are suddenly confronted with a warning from the mysterious boy. Katsuyama responds by saying that it is a good idea, and then he begins daydreaming about engaging in sexually explicit activities with the girls. In the aftermath of that, as they embark on their journey to locate the girls and the geeks, the mysterious boy smiles menacingly behind their backs. In the opposite direction, the group of athletes is able to listen in on their conversation while they are hiding from them. When they are hiding from the athlete group is able to listen in on their conversation. When Haruka and the girls go for a walk around Omi Town after that, they discover that the town is full of life and that the buildings are as adorable as cupcakes. While the girls are getting excited about the various shops, the president of the class stops them from wandering too far away from the topic at hand. While this is going on, Haruka believes that his participation is no longer necessary because everyone has arrived without incident. Haruka is then asked for assistance by the class president, who is then busy trying to maintain control over the girls who are obsessed with the shops. She becomes enraged when she sees Haruka sitting in a corner and drinking juice, and she tells him to assist her in some degree. All of the girls are immediately gathered together after she blows a whistle because she was unable to find any other way to accomplish this. Following the gathering of everyone, she then makes an announcement regarding her plan for what they will do from that point forward. In the beginning, they will have Ofter lead them to the Adventurer Guild. After that, they will sell what they have, sign up to become adventurers, and look for a place to reside. This causes Shimazaki, the leader of the mean girls, to become enraged and inquire as to whether or not they are merely an afterthought. She then mentions searching Oda's group after they have finished with that. After that, Haruka inquires of Shimazaki whether she is concerned about them, but Shimazaki immediately responds that it is not the case. It is then that Haruka notices Ofter on edge as they are making their way to the guild, and she wonders if this is because of the negative information that they received from the guild. Haruka was beginning to feel uneasy about the road, and she began to wonder if the guild was located in that area. They eventually arrived at the guild, and when Haruka finally saw it in person, she was completely speechless. Haruka is pondering criminal organizations from his previous world as he watches Geitek break into the guild through the front gate. After that, Geitek succeeds in breaking in. As soon as they enter the guild, everyone stares at them in a menacing manner and begins to discuss amongst themselves the reasons why there are so many girls signing up for the clan. To Haruka's surprise, one of the individuals calls him and tells him that he does not like the way he looks. He addresses him as a child and has a malicious expression on his face. When Haruka hears it, he becomes enraged and tells him that he has a large mouth for someone with his face. A moment later, everyone falls to their knees in fear, which causes Haruka to wonder if it is because of his contact lens. Haruka is then instructed by the president of the class to stop staring at them and to find a place to sit in silence. Meanwhile, Haruka is uncertain as to whether or not those individuals are practicing for some kind of emergency situation. Following that, Haruka lets out a tearful cry while he is sitting in a secluded corner by himself, thinking to himself that his condition is pitiful. After that, Geitek eventually makes his way back to the guild, where he is taken aback by the circumstances that have arisen within. He asks them if they are treating his savior poorly, but they vehemently deny that they are. Subsequently, he inquires of Haruka whether anything occurred, to which he responds that he was bullied and yelled at. After that, Geitek inquires of those individuals whether or not what he has stated is accurate, but they deny it while expressing fear. After that, Ofter tells them to come with him because there is something they need to hear about the Green Wolves. He comes down from the second floor and tells them to comply with his request. On the other hand, Haruka and the president believe that they had nothing essential to report because the death occurred instantly. At that point, Ofter knocks on a door and announces that he is the one who brought them here. Upon entering the building, they come face to face with the guild master. As Haruka observes him, she realizes that he is becoming increasingly dissatisfied with the fact that he is meeting elderly men rather than attractive women. The guild master inquired as to whether or not he was Haruka. As he responded in the affirmative, he became frightened by the presence of the guild master. After that, the guild master thanked him in a humble manner for assisting his team, which caused Haruka to be perplexed by the abrupt shift in the atmosphere. When Haruka came down from the second floor, he let out a sigh of relief because he had been under the impression that he was going to be reprimanded. It was then brought to his attention that they needed to complete their registration and exchange their goods. During the time that he was selling the magic stones, Haruka instructed the girls to wait for him there. As soon as he arrived at the exchange window and glanced at a magic stone, he pondered the question of how much it would cost to purchase one. It was a combination of him vanquishing goblins left and right, and the girls working diligently to clean up after him that allowed them to amass a significant amount of items. His eyes were filled with greed, and he entertained the idea that he might become a lonely playboy if it was successful in selling. During his conversation with the cashier, he informed her that he was interested in exchanging some F-rank magic stones. She responded by saying that after they had evaluated them, they would provide him with a citation. In response to his inquiry about where he ought to put them, she suggested that he put them on the desk right in the middle of the room. The cashier was taken aback by the massive quantity of magic crystals that he brought with him when he began to remove them from the store. Although he informed her that he had additional items in his bag, the cashier advised him to hold off until the following day. Following that, Haruka stepped on Shimazaki's foot by accident, but he chose to disregard her and instead listened to the class president speak about how they had successfully completed the registration process for all the students. Considering that the majority of his classmates were somewhere around level 30, everyone in the guild was getting excited. The president added that Haruka would develop into a fantastic explorer, and Shimazaki stated that it was Haruka's turn to take the initiative. When Haruka expressed his desire to register, he did so with complete assurance, and the receptionist informed him that he would need to wait while people evaluated him. In the meantime, the president praised Haruka and told the others that he would become a great adventurer. He also stated that the fact that they were even able to be there was due to Haruka. Haruka was then given an apology by the receptionist, who informed him that in order to register, he needed to be at least level 10 higher. As soon as he heard it, he was taken aback and asked the receptionist if she could do anything about it. However, she responded that she was unable to do anything about it. At level 10, they are elevated to the status of an adventurer in their world, and once they reach level 30, they are able to function independently. However, because of his loner skill, he was unable to form a party, and as a result, he was required to reach level 30 before forming a party. Following that, Haruka began to cry, and the girls either laughed at him or felt sorry for him because of his current state of distress. During the time that Haruka was wallowing in her depression, the president of the class announced that she would locate a place for them to stay while Haruka was recuperating. After some time has passed, the president of the class provides Haruka with the news that they have arrived at the hotel that was suggested by the guild. Instantaneously, Haruka is able to recover from his depression and looks around, uncomfortable with his appearance. These individuals are greeted by a poster girl who claims to have learned about them from the Adventurers Guild. In response to Haruka's inquiry, the girls vehemently deny that they are staying in a love hotel. They go to their respective rooms and wish everyone a good night before retiring for the night. As soon as Haruka walks into his room, he is dismayed to discover that the interior appears to be completely normal. While he is lying on his bed, he is thinking that they should not be concerned because they will be receiving their payment the following day. At the same time that everyone goes to sleep, Shimazaki is curious about the location of Oda's group at this very moment. On the 18th day, while everyone is finishing their breakfast, the president of the class shares with them the information that she just received from the receptionist. She states that, in her opinion, the town is relatively safe, and because it possesses the majority of the essential products, they are able to remain there for a considerable amount of time. While this is going on, Haruka is listening to their conversation, but his heart breaks when he finds out that there are bookstores. While Haruka is describing the geeks, a young lady from the inn inquires as to whether or not he is referring to the individuals who are dressed in the same manner as them. She responds that they pay them a visit quite frequently when the president of the class inquires about whether or not she has seen them. Following this, all of the girls begin to rejoice as they are now aware that they are safe, and they express their relief upon hearing this news. Haruka had intended to leave after this, but after hearing the news, he decided that he would stay at the location in order to connect with them. After that, he goes to the exchange corner to retrieve his money. But all of the employees from the guild apologize to him and tell him that they do not have any more money. Both Haruka and the president are taken aback by their behavior and are curious about what took place and why. As a result, the guild master expresses his regret to Haruka and informs him that the processing of all the magic stones has not yet been completed due to the large quantity of them. The fact that everyone has dark circles under their eyes as a result of working overnight has led Haruka to believe that they are not hiding anything. After that, the guild master explains that they do not possess the financial resources required to trade all of the magic stones, and he inquires as to whether or not they are able to repay him in installments. It is fine, Haruka says in response, and the guild master expresses his gratitude to him. After that, he receives 8 million ara from the guild, and the revelation that he has received such a substantial sum of money comes as a surprise to him. Considering that the value of their currency is comparable to that of Japan's currency, he is perplexed as to why he was able to acquire such a large quantity of F-ranked magic stones. Following that, the receptionist provides him with a general explanation of the value of the magic stone associated with each rank. Furthermore, she mentions that they were rewarded with a bonus payment for their assistance in Ofter's quest, and the majority of the amount originated from that. When that is over, Haruka tells them that they will be able to live comfortably for a while, and the girls say that they will go shopping. After that, the president of the class inquires about Haruka's whereabouts, to which he responds that he is looking for some recommendations from a particular individual. After that, G gives him a call and assures him that he will send him a proper thank you for his assistance. When he tells Haruka that he will show him a good place, Haruka is delighted, but she is curious as to whether or not he is going to take him to a place that is inappropriate. During the course of their stroll through the town, Haruka is curious about whether Gatek is taking him to a location where he will have the opportunity to get intimate with attractive women. He inquires as to whether or not it is acceptable to do so during the day, but Gatek suggests that they go to a hole-in-the-wall weapon shop instead, which infuriates him. After that, Gatak explains to Haru that the shop specializes in selling exceptional items that have been sourced from one-of-a-kind dungeons, and that it caters to individuals who are eccentric, just like him. Additionally, he asserts that the entire situation may appear to be suspicious. However, he is able to attest to the quality of the product. Following this, Haruka considers taking a look and then grabs a magic reflection cloak, which is a cloak that reflects less powerful magic. He is captivated by the effects, and because of this, he believes that it could be used as a defense mechanism against magical assaults. Gatak tells him that he is free to go somewhere else or to remain there if he so chooses after he has purchased the cloak. After that, Haruka gives a power glove a try, which when worn increases his power by 7%. After that, he gives a fire staff a try, and when it is equipped, it gives him a 10% increase in his magic. Despite the fact that he has a lot of money, he decides to purchase both of these items. However, Gatak cautions him to finish his shopping before the sun goes down. Following that, Haruka discovers a magic blade that has an enhanced cutting ability. However, it is only available to players who have reached level 50. In awe of the blade's katana-like shape, he makes the decision to purchase it for the purpose of adorning his home. Haruka then takes notice of a necklace that is titled Necklace of Take 7, and inquires with the proprietor about the meaning of the term Take 7. Haruka is under the impression that his villager set is identical to the shopkeeper's explanation that he is able to store the effects of 7 other pieces of equipment for later use. Eventually, Haruka develops an addiction and begins purchasing a variety of items. He is particularly interested in the rope of mistletoe among the items because the only explanation he was given was that it strengthens wooden sticks and stays. That is the only explanation he was given. Suddenly, the president puts in a call to Haruka and inquires about his whereabouts outside at such a late hour. However, Haruka is startled and ends up stumbling over all of the items that are in the shop. She tells him that everyone else has already fallen asleep. Following his fall on the items, he makes a gloomy face and informs the president of the class that it is possible that the items were mixed up into one another. After that, the proprietor of the shop goes into a panic, stating that the items cost more than 10 million air, but that they were able to pay it off using the 8 million air that they had previously. On day 20, Haruka is seen sitting in a corner and claiming that he does not have any money, despite the fact that he longs for a great deal of things. At the guild, he is unable to fulfill any requests, and even if he makes an attempt to leave the building in order to run a few errands, the president of the class will not allow him to leave unless she is aware of what he is doing. He then slams the ground and places the blame for everything on his ability to be a loner and a NEET. Instantaneously, he becomes aware of a bird flying above the city walls, and he immediately devises a strategy for breaking out. When Haruka asks the class president once more if he is allowed to leave the classroom, she responds with a negative answer. The only thing he wanted to do was go out and make some money, but she wouldn't let him in. He is terrified that he might be given the title of being poor, and that at some point in the future, the curtains will open on his solitary poverty in the other world of existence. But that is not a problem because the cloak that he is currently wearing has transformed into a cloak that makes him invisible. His goal is to make use of the effects so that he can go for a walk outside and then come back without the president of the class noticing him. Afterwards, he gives it a shot and activates his presence erase and secrecy skills in order to conceal his identity. After that, he sneaks past the president, making sure that she is unaware of his presence. As a result of Haruka's successful escape from the hotel room, the wall is the only person or thing that is currently standing in his way. There are a few of his classmates who take notice of him just as he is about to cross the wall and inquire about his destination. The sight of them causes Haruka to become startled, and she falls to the ground. Following that, he takes a look at them and realizes that 3 of their class 4 Musing Queens are currently present. They responded to Haruka's inquiry about the whereabouts of the class president by stating that she is not present in the classroom. Following that, his presence sense detects someone, and he begins to wonder if she is the 4th queen. In spite of the fact that she was openly experimenting with a variety of outfits, Haruka and the other girls cautioned her against stripping in public. Her response was that it was impolite, but Haruka retorted in a furious manner that it was at least partially accurate. When she heard it, she immediately became depressed and stated that she would put her clothes back on. The sight of her in that state makes Haruka feel terrible, and she compliments her by stating that the clothes she is wearing look great on her. When that happens, her spirit is lifted once more, and she returns to being the same person she always is. Next, as they were making their way back from the clothing store, they came across Kakizaki's circle of friends. Following that, they begin to talk about the various items that they have acquired, and in the meantime, Haruka is pleased to observe how well they are adjusting to the new environment. As they were leaving, Kakizaki noticed that there were a number of people in the crowd who had faces that were similar to his own. After taking a more in-depth look, she is taken aback to discover that it is Oda's group. After that, Kakizaki calls the other girls and tells them that she saw Oda's group, but when she turned around to look at them again, she realized that they had disappeared from her view. On the 21st day, the daughters get ready to embark on their very first quest. After that, Haruka suddenly interrupts them and asks if he can also go with them, but the president tells him that she will not allow him to escape. He stated that he would like to search for Oda's group, but the president of the class responded with a negative response. She is informed by Haruka that he is concerned about them, and upon hearing him, the president is also curious about whether or not they are in good health. After that, she grants him permission to leave the house, which causes him to be taken aback by the news. Following that, she cautions him to exercise caution with regard to the gatekeeper, but he responds that it won't be a problem at all. Following that, he departs while claiming that he is going to go otaku hunting, and the fact that he is moving around in secret is peculiar. When he arrived at the entrance to the gate, he realized that he could not afford to let this opportunity pass him by because he had received permission from the president. Afterwards, he makes use of the ability of his cloak to sneak past the guards, and he is ultimately successful in escaping the city. While he is traveling through the roads, he comes across a village that has been completely destroyed. However, he decides against going there because his primary objective is to... It has finally come to pass that the girls have begun to make a living in the city, but something horrifying is coming from the direction of the forest. Following that, Marielle makes her introduction to Haruka, stating that she is the daughter of the lord of the nearby town. However, Haruka does not have any interest in her. She is informed by Haruka that he is paying attention, and he then introduces himself to her. The next thing he does is call her by the incorrect name, which causes her to cry. Marielle describes the circumstances surrounding the assault that occurred while they were on their way home from a business meeting. When all of a sudden, a few of the soldiers collapse to the ground as a result of the poison that was injected by the bandit's blade, Marielle is concerned about what she should do. In his memory, Haruka is seen picking up some antidote herbs and preparing them into potions. He then administers these potions to the soldiers who have been poisoned. After the soldiers have recovered from the poison, Marielle is filled with joy and expresses her gratitude to the soldiers for saving their lives on the battlefield. Because she wants to express her gratitude to Haruka in an appropriate manner, she inquires about the possibility of Haruka accompanying them back to town. In addition, she mentioned that she will feel secure in his presence because they had been attacked during the attack. Haruka responds that he is not bothered by the situation and immediately hops inside the carriage, which causes her to be taken aback. During the course of their journey, Marielle inquires about the town from which he originated, to which he responds that he originated from the dreadful town that is located upstream of the river. When Marielle hears him, she immediately begins to cry and apologizes, stating that she is the terrible daughter of the terrible lord of the terrible city. Haruka makes an effort to cheer her up by commenting positively on Omiya City, but he only serves to make the situation even more difficult. Haruka is taken aback by the size of the city mansion when they finally arrive at it after a considerable amount of time has passed. After that, he makes an attempt to leave the mansion, but Marielle gets in his way. When she inquires as to the reason he was unable to wait, he responds by saying that he is simply going to wait outside. She responded by saying that she is aware that he is attempting to flee and asked if he could wait for a little bit longer. Following that, Marielle brings him a large quantity of food, and he quickly becomes excited upon seeing it. When Marielle is in the middle of delivering a speech, he pays no attention to her and eats like a maniac, which causes her to become irritated. After that, Marielle gives a signal to a maid, and the maid responds by bringing Haruka a small bag of money as a reward for her assistance. He is presented with an identification card by Marielle, who explains that the name Amy is engraved on the card. In addition to that, she informed him that he is free to leave the city at any time by using this card, and she urged him to learn the name of the city. Haruka, on the other hand, is preoccupied with eating pudding, so he does not pay attention to her at all. His behavior causes Marielle to feel depressed because he continues to ignore her, even after she has dressed him in a dress that she has put on for him. On the 22nd day, Haruka is ecstatic as he examines his identification card because he is able to leave the city without any restrictions or difficulties after receiving permission to do so from the president of the class. According to Haruka, no one is aware of it, but he intends to go back to this cave once he has located the other students in his class. Soon after he has finished getting ready, he heads off to the woods. While he is making his way inside, he experiences a sense of melancholy upon seeing all of the monsters and mushrooms, and he declares that he has at long last returned. At that moment, an orc makes an attempt to launch a surprise attack at him, but he is able to react in time and defeat the orc with a single blow. He is perplexed as to why an orc would appear in the watery region of the forest, and he goes on to say that he found this location to be too simple for him to handle due to the new pieces of equipment he had acquired. In spite of this, he continues to have a peculiar feeling about the natural environment. After reaching level 20, Haruka develops a healthy amount of skepticism regarding the cheat skills and weapon skills that the mastermind has unlocked. After gaining knowledge from the bandits, he discovered that the weapon skills are not only quick and powerful, but once activated, they cannot be defeated. In order to prepare for the fight, he needs to acquire new skills right now. In order to accomplish this, he engages in combat with monsters as a form of targeted training. The level of the adversary was steadily increasing as the player progressed deeper and deeper into the game. The other side of the coin was that he had encircled his body with magic. Through the use of his staff, he was able to vanquish consecutive monsters. Although he is aware that weapon skills are powerful, he is also aware that the user's ability remains the same. Therefore, he is aware that if he is able to improve his strength, he ought to have a chance in the fight against the criminals. Following that, while he was searching for more powerful monsters to allow him to level up more quickly, his presence detection picked up the presence of a goblin king who was 23 levels old. When Hara hears the king's ireful roar, he realizes that he was unaware that the king would appear to be so intimidating and large. After that, the goblin king launches an assault on him, and he is taken aback by the speed with which the goblin king executes his massive club swing. Haruka continued to avoid the attacks of the goblin king, but it was difficult for him to keep up with the speed of the goblin king. It is clear to him that this time it is different because he is aware that he will perish if he is struck. Because it appeared as though the goblin king was not showing any signs of fatigue, Haruka was interested in testing out a skill on him. The staff is encircled with magic, and Haruka combines a number of different abilities into one. After that, he unleashes his assault, which in a single blow eliminates the goblin king. Following the conclusion of the conflict, he was content with the outcomes. He was under the impression that if he combined those ineffective abilities, he would be able to execute a powerful attack. Then, all of a sudden, a menacing figure materializes behind him, which shocks him and takes him by surprise. After that, he examines its status and discovers that it is a Goblin Emperor by the level of 50. When Haruka sees the Goblin Emperor, he experiences fear because he concludes that he cannot escape it and that he cannot defeat it in a normal manner. It is clear to him that the only choice he has left is to pull out all of the magic power that he possesses and swing as hard as he possibly can. Truth and Lie is the name of the new skill that he developed by combining all of his existing abilities. Haruka makes a beeline for the Goblin Emperor and strikes him with his staff as he approaches. After that, he turns his attention back to him and discovers that the Emperor was not affected in any way by his attack. Without warning, the Goblin Emperor charges at him, and despite Haruka's best efforts to avoid being hit, the Emperor is still able to inflict injuries on him. Haruka believes that, as was to be expected from the Goblin Emperor, he is unable to gain an advantage over his weapon skill because he is too quick. Following a period of time spent dodging, Haruka discovers one more opening, and he goes on to strike the goblin with all of his strength. For this particular instance, the attack was extremely effective. However, to Haruka's astonishment, the Emperor possesses a recovery skill of level 5, which allowed him to recover from the damage in an instant. Haruka then notices that the Goblin Emperor is clenching his fist, which signifies that he is now able to deal more damage than he was able to earlier. During the time that Haruka was attempting to defend himself against the Emperor's assault, he began to wonder if he could simply use his Truth and Lie ability to strike the Emperor. During the course of the attack, Haruka was pushed back, and as the Emperor approached him, Haruka stated that even if he complained about it, it would not change anything. It was during this time that he stood up and stated that having the Emperor as his opponent is quite harsh because he does not enjoy being beaten up like those idiots. At that moment, Haruka was yelling with joy the following morning, which was day 24. At the same time, the Goblin Emperor was lying on the ground dead. Haruka is overjoyed to finally announce that he has reached a higher level. After looking at the status screen, he notices that he has acquired some new abilities. However, he is aware that in comparison to that individual, he is still behind in terms of strength. But then he said with a serious expression that he is capable of doing this, and that he will capture this cheat skill regardless of the circumstances. At precisely the moment that he made that statement, Haruka became aware of a person approaching him from the depths of the forest. She addressed the young man as Tanaka and said, "So you finally came," while maintaining a serious expression on her face. While this was going on, the president was pondering something. Due to the fact that Haruka had left 2 days earlier, in addition to being concerned about his well-being, they had been following his instructions. Now that they had reached a higher level in the dungeon, she and the other girls were making their way back to the town. After that, they became aware of a few individuals who were looking at them while wearing clothes that were in a state of disrepair. Initially, they were suspicious of them. However, the president of the call recognized someone and inquired as to whether or not it was Kazaki-san. When it was revealed that the guys were actually the boys from the athlete team, all of the girls were taken aback. The president inquired as to the reason for their current state of affairs. In response, Kazaki assured her that there was no need for concern because everything was in order. After that, she began to look around, stating that if they were currently present, it was reasonable to assume that Haruka was also in the vicinity. But he informed her that they were not with him, which was a source of disappointment for her. Furthermore, Kazaki stated that Haruka was still engaged in combat within the forest, which caused the president to be taken aback. While this was going on, Haruka informed Tanaka that it had been quite some time and invited him to visit him in his cave. Tanaka, however, began to walk backwards and inquired as to why he was there, given that he was going to have those dying brain muscles direct him to the location of the president. He then turned his attention back to Haruka and stated that he had even gone to the trouble of coming to this repulsive location. When Haruka realized that he had made the right decision by coming by himself, he informed Tanaka that, unfortunately for him, they were probably already in town by this point. Tanaka responded that it was unfortunate because, after he had taken those criminals by surprise and killed them, he was only one step away from putting his plan into action. But Haruka was not taken aback by this event. After that, he came to the realization that everything was Tanaka's doing, as he had most likely instructed the criminals on how to use skills in order to exert control over them. And Tanaka responded by saying that he was completely correct. The individual who was responsible for breaking the class relationship and manipulating the delinquents was him. Haruka was incensed by the fact that Tanaka was the primary cause of the conflict as a result of this. Then, however, he inquired about Tanaka's other male companions. Tanaka calmly responded that, of course, he had killed them a long time ago, which encompassed a total of 12 individuals, including the criminals. Haruka was then informed that this conversation was over because he needed to make his way to the president. After giving him a pat on the shoulder, he stated that he did not have the time to deal with a small fry who only got leftover skills. However, just as Tanaka was about to leave, Haruka intervened and told him that he had promised the president that he would come back to her. It was for this reason that he was unable to allow him to see her in front of him, and he directed his staff toward Tanaka. While demonstrating his aura to Haruka, Tanaka gave him a wicked smile and told him not to point that dirty stick at him. Haruka was also shown Tanaka's aura. When Haruka saw his aura, she was astonished and remarked that it contained a great deal of magical power. After that, Tanaka crafted some stone bullets with the intention of attacking Haruka. Prior to the attack, he inquired as to whether or not Haruka could deal with this by utilizing his Nis skill, determining that he would not be able to block it. The attack was quickly sidestepped by Haruka. Tanaka complimented him on his ability to avoid the spell, and then proceeded to attack with a more powerful spell, but Haruka was still able to avoid it. Tanaka told Haruka that he thought he was a small fry, but they both agreed that he wasn't even close to being that. After that, Tanaka became serious and inquired about the length of time that he had been suspicious of him. The response that Haruka gave was that it had been going on since the beginning. Tanaka was a math nerd, so it was likely that he had some reason for hanging out with the individuals who were considered to be criminals. To ask him a question, Haruka stated that it was now his turn to do so. When did he first begin making plans for all of this? To which Tanaka responded with a sneering smile and stated that it had been the case from the very beginning. This strategy was the first thing that came to his mind when he saw the ability to interfere. If he made effective use of the criminals, he would be able to disrupt the relationships between the classes. It was at that moment that he had that thought in his head. When Tanaka told Haruka that this was the end, Haruka found himself suddenly caught in the spell that Tanaka had cast over him. Haruka then realized that he wouldn't be able to survive this time and was struck by the spell that Tanaka had cast on him. Tanaka had then attacked him with a massive fire spell. Tanaka smiled and said that it was a little bit of a letdown, but then he surprised himself by realizing that Haruka had absorbed his magic spell and transformed it into his staff. Haruka rejoiced in the fact that he was aware of the undiscovered effect that his magic staff possessed, despite the fact that he had not yet put it to the test. As he made his way towards Tanaka, he was under the impression that he needed to strike quickly before he could use his weapon skill. Tanaka was still startled when Haruka jumped at him while shouting that he would be the one to put an end to this situation with a single blow. Despite the fact that he used all of his strength to strike Tanaka, Tanaka easily blocked the attack, which surprised him. After expressing his disappointment, he proceeded to inquire of Haruka whether he truly believed that this was his opportunity. After Haruka realized that Tanaka was acting as if she were surprised, she responded by taking a few steps back. Tanaka laughed at Haruka and said that he was considering whether he should use a sword or a spear to break Haruka's spirit. After that, he summoned a number of weapons and said, "Never mind, let's use them all." Haruka was surprised by Tanaka's decision. After yelling that he was going to break his spirit, he continued, "Until there is nothing left." Haruka was of the opinion that this was a terrible thing. In fact, it was even more terrible than he had anticipated. Haruka appears to be terrified because he is aware that he is unable to protect all of them. The fact that he is finally struck and falls to the ground brings Tanaka a great deal of joy. On the other hand, Haruka stands up once more, thinking that the situation is even more dire than he had previously believed. After that, Tanaka launches another assault on Haruka using a variety of weapons, and Haruka makes an effort to avoid being hit by the assaults. Following some time, Haruka utters the following, "So this is Tanaka's weapon skill. It beats my expectations in terms of speed and strength. This is his ability to imitate others." Tanaka offers a grin and responds, "Earlier, I said it myself that I wanted to copy the president's plunder skill." Tanaka is surprised that Haruka is aware of his ability. It means that I have the ability to steal her real skill if I want to copy everything. Having said that, Tanaka conjures up a scythe in order to kill Haruka. While this is going on, Haruka has come to the realization that all of Tanaka's moves were the result of him using his copycat skill on the 12 individuals that he had killed. While he is dodging, he is reflecting on the fact that he does not have the opportunity to catch his breath, and that even if he were to attempt to attack, Tanaka would use the illusion skill to avoid his attacks. As time passes, Haruka appears exhausted and expresses that he has reached his breaking point. Tanaka rushes towards him while yelling, "So you finally gave up." She does this after seeing him in such a terrible condition. However, all of a sudden, Haruka breaks into a grin and comments, "I'm just kidding," before effortlessly evading Tanaka's assault. Tanaka makes another attempt to hit him, claiming that he missed it by accident. However, Haruka still manages to avoid it, and he then inquires as to whether or not he is only able to use the skill a total of 3 times. As Haruka tells Tanaka that he has seen through his copycat's weakness, Tanaka listens with shock. This causes Tanaka to feel a little bit of fear during the conversation. Haruka is considering divulging the information regarding the copycat. Tanaka continues to attack him while he is yelling, "Why won't my attacks work?" He allows Tanaka to continue attacking him. Haruka then leaps into the air to get behind him and says that he has become accustomed to his speed. Haruka deals a powerful blow to Tanaka's stomach, which causes him to fly away before Tanaka has a chance to react. According to Haruka, it is now his turn to speak. Just as Tanaka was about to fall to the ground, Haruka suddenly materialized from behind him and repeated the blow. In the same manner, he strikes Tanaka multiple times in the air, subsequently stating that he is not going to let any opportunities pass him by. On the other hand, Tanaka suddenly recognizes an opening and launches an assault on him using his fire spell, only narrowly avoids it. Haruka. It was hard for him to believe that Tanaka still possessed such a significant amount of power, and he anticipated that someone with cheating skills would not be easily defeated. Tanaka yells out in a fit of rage, demanding to know why something like Haruka is able to defeat him. He did not factor this into his calculations. Following that, he gives a spooky smile and declares that because things have reached this point, he has no other option but to play his trump card. Following that, he conjures up a short sword and informs Haruka that this is his most powerful cheat, which allows him to move at an extremely rapid pace. But Haruka believes that this appears to be typical, just like other skills. Tanaka attempts to strike Haruka, but he is able to block it with his staff. It dawns on him all of a sudden that Tanaka is attacking him from above, and he immediately leaps backwards to avoid being hit. Tanaka strikes the ground, and the force of his attack causes it to collapse instantly. Haruka, on the other hand, thinks that appears to be very meek, or perhaps this was just a distraction. If what you say is accurate, then the following will be. But before Haruka could respond, he noticed Tanaka standing behind him, and she announced that it was time to part ways. Afterward, Tanaka employs his ability to cause instant death on Haruka, causing his soul to depart from his body. Tanaka laughed and yelled that Haruka had finally died as Haruka lay on the ground, appearing to be dead even though she was still alive. Tanaka continued after stepping on Haruka's head, saying that Haruka had forced him to use his trump card, which he was supposed to be saving up. But at this point, it was irrelevant. When he finally got his hands on the plunderous skill, he would definitely be able to make extensive use of it. Tanaka heard Haruka asking him where he was going a moment after stepping on his face. This occurred as Tanaka began to walk in the direction of the town. When Tanaka realized that Haruka was still alive, he expressed his surprise and said that his instant death should have worked on level 11. The response that Haruka gave to this was that he had the health skill, so it was going to be difficult for that to work on him because instant death was an abnormal status. In light of this, the success rate had decreased as a result of his health skill. Haruka went on to say that it wasn't anything. He also broke his luck limit, and after he transported, he put all of his points into luck, which increased the likelihood that he would fail. He just went along with the act, but he didn't expect Tanaka to step on him. He never expected Tanaka to step on him. When Tanaka asked how he was able to move at all, Haruka told him that through the use of the meddling skill, he had been limiting his movement from the very beginning. At the same time, Haruka inquired of him if he was familiar with the concept of good for nothing. When asked about it, Tanaka responded that it meant useless, just like him. On the other hand, Haruka told him with a grin that it also had the meaning of marionette for situations like this. When encountering adversaries who were capable of controlling someone's body, he had been employing the strategy of good for nothing. Therefore, even if he were to be struck by the meddling skill, which caused the nerves to become jumbled, he was able to use the good for nothing ability to regain control of his body. Thereafter, Haruka demonstrated to Tanaka all of the abilities that he possessed and asked if these abilities appeared to be of no use to him. Haruka clenched his fist and stated that the missed skill that Tanaka made fun of wasn't half bad. After yelling that with such useless skills, he wouldn't accept this, Tanaka then launched an assault on Haruka, while simultaneously yelling that this was his other lethal skill for the second time. However, just as Tanaka was beginning to feel content, Haruka materialized in front of him and said that he had just thrown away his lethal skill and this was the end of him 9. When Tanaka thinks back to the real world, he recalls how he was always bored. The class was dull because he was more intelligent than the other students, and he did not want to learn alongside those with lower intelligence. He longed for the end of that monotonous existence he had been living. And then, one day, a light engulfed the entire class and transported him to a different world. He was unable to conceal his excitement when something suddenly materialized in front of his eyes, and the moment he laid eyes on the skill board, he was certain that this was the moment he had been waiting for. In response to something that he was thinking about, a smile appeared on his face. If he made effective use of it, he would no longer experience feelings of boredom. It was for this reason that he devised a number of scenarios that would prevent him from becoming bored in the future, even if it meant killing his own high school classmates. The first step of the plan was to use meddling to force the class to go their separate ways, which he did after he had killed a significant number of them. The next step was to replicate everyone's abilities and eliminate any obstacles that stood in the way. It was the final step, which consisted of copying the plunder skill and then using the plunder that he copied to plunder the original. This would make him the most powerful being, a perfect being, and an almighty being if he were to kill everyone and take all of their skills. As we return to the present moment, he makes another attempt to assault Haruka while yelling, "Why does he have to stand in his way?" Haruka, however, was able to avoid every attack that he made, regardless of what he did or what weapon he used. After what seemed like an eternity, Haruka finally came to the realization that Tanaka must have exhausted all of his abilities, as he had been fighting for such a long time. At that moment, however, a sword pierced his shoulder, preventing him from finishing his thought. He couldn't believe that Tanaka still had this much of a weapon up his sleeve, while Tanaka was saying that it seems as though the goddess of victory is still on his side. Tanaka continues to assault him, claiming that his victory is still 100% certain. At that precise moment, Haruka tells him to not dream too much and then sends him flying by hitting him with the staff. He tells Tanaka that he might be good at calculations, but that he didn't do anything else besides being good at calculations. As a result of his inflated sense of self-importance regarding his ability to cheat, he is not putting in enough effort. Now, with a smile on his face, he continues by saying that all of their classmates are succeeding in this world, with the exception of him. Tanaka becomes frightened when he sees Haruka smiling, and he begs him to stay away from him. However, Haruka tells Tanaka that it is time to part ways as he effectively defeats him by utilizing his truth and lie skill. Following his victory in the fight, Haruka departs while commenting that he may not possess a cheat skill, but that he is able to cheat his way out of this situation. After some time has passed, Haruka is stating that it was a close call, and if he had made even a single mistake, it is likely that he would be the one lying there. On the other hand, the recoil damage that is caused by the skill that is good for nothing is coming to him all at once. In addition, his MP has been depleted, and there is also the unintended consequence of the truth and lie skill. As he recalled the president and the other students in the class, he expressed his regret and stated that he is unable to continue to hold on any longer. However, exactly when he was on the verge of losing consciousness, someone grabbed him and called out his name. When Haruka takes a look around, she is taken aback to see that Oda and the other individuals are the ones holding the potions. But then he asked them where they had been all this time, and they responded by saying that he had never returned after they had waited for such a long time. As a result, they came to find him, and now it is their turn to save him. After that, they assist him in escaping the timbered area. During the journey back, Haruka inquired of Oda the reason why they were in the woods. Oda tells him that when they returned to the town, everyone was saying that he was still fighting in the forest alone, and they couldn't just sit idly by, so they came to find him. Oda says that they came to investigate the situation. After a considerable amount of time spent walking, they finally arrived at the town, and Haruka is taken aback to discover that everyone was waiting at the entrance gate for him to return. As a result of everyone running up to him and expressing their happiness that he is okay, he is feeling a little flustered. As a result of his victory over Tanaka, the guys on the athlete team expressed their gratitude and praise to him. Haruka responded by expressing gratitude to the foolish individuals who are willing to perform the role of stepping stones, despite the fact that this causes them to feel embarrassed. When Haruka looks over, she sees the leader of the mean girl having a conversation with Oda and the other people. Haruka encourages her and the others to speak up because they were struggling to find the courage to do so. After that, the leader expressed his regret to Oda, explaining that despite the fact that they had survived because of him, they had managed to force him to leave the base. With a smile, Oda tells her not to be concerned and extends her forgiveness to her and the others. At the same time, Haruka takes a look around and realizes that it is high time that he resumed his previous behavior of being a solitary person. On the other hand, all of a sudden, he became aware of the voice of the president asking him where he is going this time. Hearing that causes him to feel anxious, and he responds by saying that he is going back home or something similar. However, to his astonishment, the president embraces him and asks him if he was attempting to distance himself from them. She continues to hit him while claiming that she was concerned about him and that she was thinking about what would happen if he passed away and could never come back. When Haruka apologized to her and asked if he had caused her to cry once more, she smiled and responded, "Not today, because he has returned to them." Haruka's apology was directed toward her. That being said, she went on to say that she is still going to preach to him in front of everyone, which causes Haruka to feel a little bit of fear. As everyone begins to make their way towards the town, Haruka makes another attempt to flee, but the president is able to prevent him from doing so. Following that, she and the other girls take his hand and greet him by saying, "Welcome home." The following day, Haruka has a dream in which he is in a dungeon. And there, in the depths of the darkness, there is a mysterious entity that has been waiting for someone to pass by. After that, he notices a young lady who is sitting in that dungeon by herself. Her face is half that of a skeleton, and she is sitting there by herself. On the 25th day, Haruka awakens and remarks that the dream was of a peculiar nature. He ponders whether or not it was a dungeon from another location. During the process of getting ready to leave, he mentions that the damage he sustained from Tanaka has not yet fully recovered. Instantaneously, he becomes aware of someone wishing him a pleasant morning from behind him. He takes a look behind him and discovers that it is Oda and other people. They respond to his inquiry about their destination by stating that they are in a hurry and that they are going to explore a labyrinth. He then asks them where they are going. Haruka sends them her best wishes and cautions them not to get lost anywhere in that area. Following their departure, Haruka expresses with a grin that she thinks a labyrinth is an intriguing concept. As a result of his belief that he has defeated Tanaka and located Oda and the other individuals, he does not have any reason to remain in this town whatsoever. He then joyfully declares that he is free to return to his cave and take pleasure in his life of solitude. However, Haruka becomes aware of the presence of another individual behind him. He turns around and sees the president emitting a menacing aura as he does so. The fact that she informs him that she has something to discuss with him is enough to make him feel frightened. After she had already delivered a sermon to everyone the day before, he is apprehensive and asks her what she is talking about. He believes that it is impossible for her to deliver another sermon. At that moment, however, she seizes him and informs him that she has not yet personally preached to him. She confronts him with a threatening question, asking him why he did those risky things by himself the day before. Haruka makes an attempt to flee from that location. However, after he has preached for an hour, he falls to his knees and apologizes, stating that he will not repeat similar actions in the future. Following the departure of the president, Haruka recounts that the sermon she delivered this time was extremely terrifying. It is a traumatic experience that cannot even be compared to Tanaka. According to him, the next time they meet, she will most likely preach to him once more, which means that he cannot go back to his cave at this time. Next, he stands up and boastfully asserts that the most secure method for him to take pleasure in his solitary existence is to locate an item that has the ability to enhance affinity. Accordingly, he makes the decision that he will go to that labyrinth the following day by tomorrow. On the following day, which was day 26, Haruka was making her way to the labyrinth while stating that, according to Oda and the other people, the labyrinth is located on this path. However, all of a sudden, he gets the impression that something in large numbers is heading in his direction. Subsequently, a large number of orcs appear in front of him, which causes Haruka to become excited. He makes a gesture with his staff toward them and says that it appears as though they will not allow him to enter the labyrinth with such ease. While this was going on, the guild master was telling the president of the town that she would be able to assist them in hunting the monsters that were located on the outskirts of the town this time. However, all of a sudden, an adventurer comes running and informs everyone that the orcs have invaded in large numbers and have destroyed the villages that are located nearby. The guild master and the president are taken aback when they learn that the orcs are going to arrive at their town in a shorter amount of time. After that, the guild master gives the order for everyone to go and get themselves ready, as well as to protect the town through any means necessary. In response to the president's request that he allow them to assist as well, he affirms that he is relying on their assistance. Following that, the president is going to make a beeline for the inn where they are staying so that she can inform everyone about the situation. Suddenly, however, she comes to a halt and wonders where Haruka has gone. While this was going on, Haruka was engaged in combat with the orcs, and he was thinking that there are an excessive number of them. In addition, he recognized an orc king for the very first time. After some time, all the guild members, along with the president and others, were standing at the town's gate. Orcs were reportedly marching in that area, as stated in the reports. In addition to boosting everyone's morale, the guild master warned them to be on the lookout for their enemies. While this was going on, Haruka had already successfully eliminated the orcs and was engaged in combat with the orc king. In light of the fact that the orc king possessed a powerful physique, he continued to launch attacks against it. Within a minute, the orc king was found lying on the ground, having passed away. Despite the fact that there were a great number of them, Haruka decided that it was irrelevant at this point and began searching for the entrance to the labyrinth. Following a period of time spent searching, he was finally successful in locating the entrance, and he hurriedly made his way towards it. At historical floor where a lot of adventurers have passed through, a tense atmosphere that could be felt from deep within, "This is so exciting," he exclaimed with a smile while he was inside the labyrinth. It was then that he began his search for the items that had the potential to increase his affinity. He then discovered a chest full of treasure. His excitement caused him to open it, and he thought that there must be something significant inside. However, he then threw the items out of the chest and yelled that everything was nothing but garbage. In that labyrinth, he pondered whether or not there was nothing but garbage. Aside from that, if there was a genuine item that had the ability to increase his affinity, it would appear to be suspicious. While Haruka was thinking about the word suspicious, he explained that it was possible that the dealer at the suspicious weapon shop was aware of the item that he desired. In order to have a conversation with that individual first, he made the decision to return to the town. While this was going on, the guild master expressed his dissatisfaction by stating that the orc had not yet arrived. In response, the other individual stated that they were already in the vicinity when he first noticed them. He stated that they ought to be arriving in a short while. Therefore, the guild master demanded in a furious tone, "What exactly do you mean by the word shuld?" After that, however, the president yelled out that something was going to happen. Hearing that caused everyone to take the situation seriously, and they prepared themselves to face the orcs. However, to their astonishment, it was Haruka who inquired as to the reason behind their decision to have a campfire. Almost immediately, the president brought him to the city and informed him that there were monsters on their way who had destroyed the villages in the surrounding area. She noticed that he was yawning and made the observation that he must still be exhausted from the previous battle. She suggested that he return to the inn and rest there while they were protecting the town. That was something that Haruka agreed to, and she immediately began walking in the direction of the inn. Later on, however, he overheard them stating that the orcs had not yet arrived at their destination. Turning around, he approached the president and inquired as to whether or not the monsters that had destroyed the nearby villages were orcs. She was taken aback by that and responded that he was correct, while also pondering how he had come to know about that. And then Haruka informed them that if that was the case, he had already triumphed over each and every one of them. When the other girls found out about this, they became enraged and asked him why he continued to engage in risky behaviors. After some time had passed, the guild master expressed his gratitude to him for rescuing the town from the orcs. However, he also cautioned him to never behave in such a manner again, as even a minor error could have resulted in his death. In addition, the president instructed the guild master to reprimand him even further. Haruka was informed by the guild master that he was being loud for a specific reason, which was due to the fact that the monsters' movements had become more active in recent times. The monsters that originate from the labyrinth are particularly notable because they are typically found in large numbers and stand out more than any other type of monster. With this information, they anticipated that they would be able to launch a stampede in the not-too-distant future. In order to explain to Haruka why he ought to behave, he said, that was something that Haruka reluctantly agreed to. He believed that everything that had occurred was due to the fact that he had a low affinity level, and as a result, he needed to locate an item that could raise it. As soon as he had that idea in his head, he yelled out with tremendous enthusiasm, "Onward to the weapon shop." When day 27 arrived, Haruka was standing outside the shop, searching for the suspicious proprietor of the weapon shop. The proprietor of the shop took notice of him and became frightened when Haruka yelled out that they had finally met. Haruka was instructed to leave him alone by the shopkeeper, who informed him that he did not have anything to sell him. Haruka revealed, much to his astonishment, that he had not been there to make any purchases since that day. In all honesty, all he wanted to know was whether or not there were any items that could boost affinity. After making the offer, he inquired about the shopkeeper's interest in the garments that belonged to the Orc King, which resulted in the shopkeeper's happiness. After that, the proprietor of the shop informed Haruka that the pheromone ring had the potential to enhance his affinity, and the rumor suggested that it could be discovered in the nearby labyrinth. Hearing that made Haruka very excited, and he proceeded to tell the proprietor that he had searched the entire first floor, but he had not discovered anything. The shopkeeper, after giving it some thought, stated that it is most likely located below the 51st floor, which is an area that no one has yet reached. In addition to that, he informed Haruka that the 100th floor is the lowest level of the labyrinth. According to Haruka, the 51st floor was a little bit far away, but he just needed to go down, right? Nevertheless, the proprietor of the shop became serious and informed Haruka that he could not simply go down each floor in a casual manner. On each floor, there was a boss monster known as the Floor Master, and in order for him to proceed to the next floor, he had to first defeat the Floor Master. Following that, he presented Haruka with a map and cautioned him to exercise caution because the labyrinth contained a great deal of enigmas, such as the ancient heroic tale and the Labyrinth Emperor. During the time that Haruka was having a conversation with the shopkeeper, Oda, and his group were listening in on what they were saying for no apparent reason. When he returned to the inn, he informed everyone that it appeared that Haruka was making preparations to enter the labyrinth in order to locate a component known as a pheromone ring. Following the hearing of that, the president and the other girls became anxious. In response to the statement made by one of them that it is a ring that has the ability to increase affinity, the president expressed his fear by stating that everyone would be manipulated if Haruka, who possessed the ability to manipulate others, were to obtain that ring. After that, they all came to the conclusion that the only option they had left was to prevent Haruka from obtaining the ring through any means necessary. On the 28th day, Haruka was having a good time going on his little adventure by himself when he suddenly found himself in an unusual circumstance. Every single one of his classmates was obviously following him for some reason. In light of the fact that it was not an adventure day, he inquired about what they were all doing. However, the president responded that it is true for him as well and inquired as to whether or not he was going to search for a pheromone ring, which caused Haruka to be shaken. He responded, of course not. The one he was looking for was Solomon's ring, which would enable him to communicate with animals. After the president gave his approval, the group proceeded to follow him into the labyrinth, and then they all went inside. Haruka, who was inside, decided that this was a terrible situation because he could not allow the president to take the pheromone ring before he did. In order to get it before she did, he made the decision to move quickly. Following that, he began to run a little bit. He was cautioned by the president to exercise caution because it was risky to travel at such a rapid pace because there might be traps in the area. Haruka responded that it was fine because his luck was at its highest point. But before he could finish saying that, the wall in front of him broke, and he began to fall down. Everyone rushed towards him, and the president attempted to hold his hand, but it was already too late for Haruka because he continued to fall down. After some time had passed, Haruka came to the conclusion that this pit was excessively deep because he was still unable to see the ground. He would be dead the moment he landed if this continued for any longer than it already has. As soon as he was finally able to see the ground, he put his hand forward and cast a magic spell in order to land without incident. Following the successful landing, he exhaled a sigh of relief and remarked that it was fortunate for him to possess earth magic, which granted him the ability to make the ground serve as his cushion. Then he took a look around him, remarked that he had fallen quite a distance, and he pondered the floor that he was currently standing on. Despite the fact that he discovered a corridor, he shook while describing it as a one-way corridor that appeared to be suspicious. It is likely that this is also one of the traps. After that, he jumped towards the hole on the roof, subsequently stating that he would simply use skywalk to get back to the spot where he had fallen. On the other hand, he ended up falling to the ground because the hole was too small for him to fit through by himself. Not to mention the fact that it was a steep ascent, and on top of that, it was extremely slimy. Since he possesses the ability to skywalk, he is able to walk through the air. However, he must have space in front of him in order to climb up. He admitted with a sigh that he needed to locate an alternative exit. Because his maximum power would be depleted before he could reach his starting point, it would be impossible for him to climb all the way to his starting point even if he were to be successful in passing through. Then, however, he became aware of the fact that he had acquired the space perception skill, which enabled him to make use of it in order to understand the layout of this area and even to remodel it. Additionally, he was given the trap sensing ability, which irritated him. If he had previously possessed this ability, he would not have been able to fall into this trap. Following that, he put his space perception and trap sensing skills to the test so that he could determine his next level of action. Following his investigation, he discovered that the corridor did not contain any traps, and that there was a large area that followed it. Therefore, if he went there, he might discover a clue that would tell him how to get back above ground. After some time had passed, Haruka mentioned that the magic energy in the area was more dense than the forests, and that it was becoming increasingly difficult for him to breathe as he went deeper. Following a period of time spent walking, he arrived at the conclusion where he discovered a sizable door. A grin appeared on Haruka's face as she stated that they desired for him to face the final boss found at level 12. Even though it was completely absurd, he made the decision to open the gate because he had no other option. On the other hand, at that precise moment, a tremendous quantity of menacing magical energy emanated from the room. The image that came to Haruka's mind when he thought about the person who possessed this magical energy was one that was incredibly sinister and ominous. After noticing a skeleton monster at the far end of the room, he came to the conclusion that the mysterious energy was emanating from that individual. He warned him that if he relaxed his guard for even a moment, he would be completely overtaken by the situation. Despite this, he proceeded to enter the building, believing that the skeleton was the thing that was making things so difficult for him simply by displaying his magical energy. The appraisal was then utilized by Haruka, who discovered that the skeleton in question was the Dark Shadow Labyrinth Emperor, and that it was at the level 100 level. On floor 47, The president is saying there is still no sign of Haruka. In reply, the other girls suggest that he might be on the very last floor. Because Haruka is not typical, the leader of the athlete team assures them that he will be fine and that they should not be concerned about him. Following the realization that what he is saying is accurate, the girls reflect on the fact that Haruka is a very powerful person. However, Oda continues by saying that there is a rumor about that occurrence. Due to the fact that this is an ancient labyrinth, it is under the strict supervision of the guild. Even individuals who possess cheating skills similar to those of the guild were initially prohibited from exploring it. Then, the leader of the athlete team explained that this is primarily due to the fact that the Labyrinth Emperor is a real person. The mysterious Labyrinth Emperor is said to have the ability to make other monsters more powerful, and it is said that even the Labyrinth King boss, which is located on the bottom floor, shows obedience to him. Is it true that one of the girls said it's just a legend? In the meantime, another person becomes terrified and asks, what if it is all true? Although the others have stated that even the monsters in the area are already at level 40, the president is feeling sorry for Haruka given this information. Because it will be too intense to continue, it is time to stop what you are doing. Nevertheless, at that very moment, a young lady mentioned that it might be frightening to proceed, but just as Haruka had saved them in the past, it is now their turn to save him. The consensus among those who agree with her is that she is correct. At the very least, let's make an effort to be as far as they possibly can, which will make the president happy. While this is going on, Haruka is on the ground floor and he says with a smile that he has managed to evaluate it, but other than its level, everything is broken. That his status is unknown is the most peculiar aspect of the situation. Although Haruka was able to view some statistics with the effect of contacts, he is only able to obtain very little information at the moment. It dawned on him that this Labyrinth Emperor is significantly more powerful than Tanaka did. It is impossible for him to compete with this individual. Additionally, the Emperor is comprised of 3 distinct races: the Fairy Knight Dullahan, the Highest Magician Lick, and the Immortal Nalife King. What this indicates is that his skill, technique, equipment, and everything else are of the highest possible quality. Haruka is aware that he does not believe he will be able to prevail in a long-range magic battle. Therefore, the only option available to him is a battle that takes place at a close range. In light of this, Haruka activates his stealth ability, believing that he must force him to engage in combat at close range as much as possible. Haruka suddenly materializes from behind the Emperor and launches an assault on him, all the while pondering the fact that it is already too late, regardless of how unfair his cheat may be. After that, however, to Haruka's utter astonishment, the Emperor moved at an incredible speed and was able to successfully block his attack. In spite of the fact that the Emperor is an adversary, Haruka's face breaks into a grin because the sword flash that he made was stunning. Haruka then makes use of his ability to pinpoint the weak spot of the adversary and yells out that he has successfully defeated him this time. On the other hand, it manages to avoid being hit by his attack before it can reach the Emperor. Haruka stated that he now realizes that it is necessary for him to discover the mechanism that is responsible for the Emperor's supersonic speed. As he rushes towards him, he is under the impression that in order to solve the mystery of supersonic speed, he must switch to speed mode. Following that, the two of them do a full speed circuit around each other. As soon as Haruka is given the opportunity, he launches an assault on the Emperor, but he is once again thwarted. According to him, even with his current speed, it is still not good. He steps aside and says this. In the end, he is able to catch up to the Emperor by increasing both his speed and his reaction time to their absolute maximum. On the other hand, despite everything that had happened, Haruka was still unable to hit him. When Haruka suddenly realizes that he is going to be killed, he manages to avoid being killed just in the nick of time. God's Eye is a contact skill that allows him to see his movement through supersonic foreseeing. He believes that it was a close call, but he is able to see his movement. If he had been paying closer attention, he would have noticed it sooner. He is now able to see into the future, even though it is only a small amount. On the other hand, if he even just relaxes his guard for a moment, he will be instantly divided in two. Because of this, Haruka is aware that he must continue to fight and that he must not give any other thoughts any sort of consideration. As time went on, he began to experience a rise in positive emotions, and he started to wish that this fight would go on for an indefinite amount of time. On the other hand, it is unfortunate to report that his power has reached its maximum level. The moment he falls to his knees, he gets up, but he is under the impression that his stamina has been depleted and that he has only a small amount of MP left. His vision is becoming increasingly hazy, and he is unsure of how much longer he will be able to hold out. During this time, the Emperor of the Labyrinth is doing remarkably well, so Haruka reassures him that it is perfectly normal to feel exhausted. Even though Haruka is unable to move his legs anymore, he is aware that if the Emperor were to attack him at this moment, he would be in a lot of trouble. However, all of a sudden, he finds it incomprehensible and wonders why the Emperor is not going to attack him. After the conversation that they had earlier, he was left with the impression that there is something about him that sets him apart from every other monster. Therefore, he is curious about what is different, and then he got it. Even when he is in that state, the Emperor does not have any intention of attacking or killing anyone. It dawned on Haruka that the Emperor is under the impression that he is capable of killing him whenever he feels like it. As a sign of his rage, Haruka clenches his fist. He is aware that the adversary is capable of killing him, but he will not. According to him, it is nothing out of the ordinary for a final boss to look down on him. As Haruka makes preparations to launch another assault, he yells out that he will discover the reason why the adversary feels compassion for him. They encounter each other once more. Even though the Emperor has numerous opportunities to eliminate Haruka, he chooses not to do so. Considering that the Emperor always stops at the very last second, Haruka is perplexed as to why he is not killing him. When Haruka suddenly becomes aware of some shadows behind the Emperor, she begins to wonder if those shadows are exerting some kind of influence over him. That, he believes, must be the case. Despite the fact that the skeleton itself does not intend to kill, the shadows are forcing him to fight anyway. It is then that his cane begins to emit a light from it. He uses his cane to attack the Emperor and yells that he is not sure what is going on, but that he will go along with whatever happens. In the process of his assault with his cane, it makes an effort to take in the shadow. Haruka becomes aware of the fact that the shadow that exercises control over the Emperor is frightened by his cane, and he comes to the conclusion that his cane desires to absorb this shadow. After that, he launches multiple assaults against the Emperor, and each time, his cane is able to absorb the shadows that are controlling it. After almost all of the shadows have vanished, he launches one more assault, and then the remaining shadows are absorbed into his cane as well. Haruka wants to know if he was the one who did it. After noticing that all of the shadows have vanished, he becomes ecstatic and inquires about the next step. In his gaze, he observes the Emperor of the Labyrinth, who appears to have lost all desire to engage in combat. To Haruka's mind, it is exactly what he had anticipated. Those shadows could be seen exerting their influence over the Emperor. He has a complete comprehension of everything, and he proceeds to inquire of the Emperor whether he had intended to pass away in order to be freed from the shadow's shackles. Because of this, he was intervening to prevent the shadow from killing him, or more accurately, he was going to allow himself to be killed instead. A yes appears in Haruka's mind, which causes him to be taken aback. He takes a step forward with his cane while contemplating the fact that if he does not eliminate this individual at this moment, the shadow's curse will most likely return to torment him once more. While he is yelling that he will grant his wish, he clenches his teeth against his teeth. After that, however, Haruka gives the Emperor a hug and declares that he will use his ability to manipulate. Due to the fact that this person is also a loner like him, he is unable to bring himself to kill him. After some time has passed, Haruka makes an attempt to shake hands with the Emperor, during which she says, "Nice to meet you." However, because he did not receive any response from the Emperor, he inquired with concern as to whether or not he was outraged by the fact that he had used his ability to manipulate him. Haruka let out a sigh of relief as the Emperor dismissed the accusation with a swift movement of his head. Haruka expresses his uncertainty about whether or not he would be able to engage in conversation with the Emperor by shaking his hand. However, it appears that the Emperor comprehends what Haruka is expressing. Despite the fact that Haruka does not detect any malicious intent on his part, he uses a praise once more, with the hope that they might be able to get along. It has come to his attention that the Emperor's level is currently at 1, and despite the fact that his status has significantly decreased, it is still extremely high. Moreover, he is now able to recognize its name, which is Angelica. After that, Haruka was overcome with hopelessness when he realized that he had used his manipulative skills on another girl. Since he was the one who used them, he has no excuse for his behavior this time around. But then he comes to his senses and realizes that she is a skeleton, so everything ought to be fine. Not only is it pointless for him to continue to remain there, but he ought to investigate what is concealed behind that door. After passing through the door, Haruka discovers a large area as well as a set of stairs in the rear of the building. It makes him happy, and he expresses his hope that these stairs will be able to bring him back to the surface. Then, however, he looks up and realizes that there is a significant issue with the situation. There is a problem with the monsters, that they are blocking the stairs, and the problem is that the monsters are more powerful the lower the floor. And for him, who began his journey on the ground floor, he must first face the most powerful monsters. While he is attempting to appear strong, he quickly reveals to Angelica that it is not possible for him to do so. Given that there are multiple monsters, it is possible that he could have a chance if there is only one monster. When the monsters finally became aware of him, they charged straight at Haruka in an attempt to eliminate him. He shut his eyes as he contemplated the possibility that he was going to be murdered very soon. However, the very next instant, he opens his eyes and discovers that each and every one of them has been defeated. After that, Haruka swiftly eliminated the monsters that he had already vanquished in order to improve his skills and level. He points out that Angelica is staring at him, and he says that she seems to be trying to communicate something, but he also says that a win is a win. Following this, Haruka takes a look at the final monster, which has already been killed by falling down, and he drops one piece of armor that is of level 100. Haruka immediately gives Angelica the armor because he is aware that she is a young girl who is in need of some clothing. He is aware that Angelica is interested in this armor. Despite the fact that she wears the armor, it merely does not fit her properly. She began to glow all of a sudden, and Haruka is perplexed as to what is taking place. And then, much to his astonishment, the armor transformed itself into a design that was more suited to a female and adjusted itself to the required size. Haruka is feeling relieved because no one can see her bones anymore, while Angelica is overjoyed to be able to wear the armor on day 29. The next thing he did was ask her if she would be willing to let him evaluate that armor. The appraise reveals that it is a cursed armor that absorbs the wearer's blood and flesh, and he discovers this after he has used it. Haruka is frightened and says that she doesn't have to get so angry because he didn't know about it either. Angelica is staring at him with a furious expression on her face. He is of the opinion that her pressure is not being lost to the president, and as a result, he ought to call her armor president from this point forward. However, she begins climbing the stairs on her own in an angry manner. However, Haruka is able to improve her disposition by providing her with some of the mushrooms on floor 98. When he entered the room on that floor, his presence detection was activated. This occurred without any delay. With nothing in front of him, he is able to sense the presence of the monster, so he makes the decision to use appraise. As soon as he uses it, he discovers that it is a lick of level 98 that is about to attack him. Since Haruka is already aware that it is immune to physical attacks and that only holy magic will be able to affect it, he rushes at it. In the past, when he had a battle with Angelica, he learned that his wooden cane would be effective against monsters of this kind. Therefore, he used his cane to attack the monster, and as he had anticipated, his cane was able to kill the monster just by itself. The moth-like monsters that are currently on level 97 are the ones that are located on the 97th floor here. It has come to his attention that there is a pattern in the room, and that is that all of the monsters congregate in the middle. He has a fleeting moment of confusion in which he believes that the power they release is a lethal poison, and with those numbers, it is going to be difficult. At that moment, however, he has an idea. Immediately after they had gathered in the middle of the room, Haruka cast a fire spell, which resulted in the creation of a large fireball that caused all of them to be killed simultaneously. It is beyond reasonable doubt that they are moths, as he stated after he had killed all of them. After that, Haruka discovers something on the wall on floor 96, and then he is taken aback when he sees a large number of caterpillars adhered to the walls. Haruka is under the impression that they cast powerful webs that are difficult to escape, and as a result, he needs a strategy to do so. As if he were paving a road, he used his earth magic to create a wall that was sufficiently thin to prevent the webs from forming. He then rolled the wall into a roller and used the roller to eliminate all of the webs. While Haruka yells that the cleaning process is finished, all of the caterpillars perished in a matter of seconds. Then, as soon as he entered the room on the 95th floor, he was able to establish that a formidable adversary was present. Because even the armor president who is ahead of him is ready to fight, he is aware that this floor is distinct from the others. He is also aware that, suddenly, he becomes aware of some swords in the distance, which causes him to become perplexed. But at that very moment, Angelica grabbed him and dived away just as he was about to be hit by an attack. The floor boss, which is a living sword after reaching level 100, finally materialized at that point. At the moment when the sword begins to strike, Haruka remarks that it is a vicious barrage of slashes. On the other hand, if it continues to aim and fire at one side, the other side will eventually be rendered defenseless. He makes an attempt to attack it from behind, but the sword monster unexpectedly turns around at the very last second, which catches him off guard. Because it is able to avoid even that, Haruka is taken aback by this. Haruka retreats in order to save himself from the counterattack that it launches. He believes that if the sword monster is able to avoid that attack, then it is going to be a challenging situation. He is also being attacked by its henchmen's swords, which is a dangerous situation. As a result, Haruka is pondering the appropriate course of action. After looking around to see if anyone else is capable of keeping up with the cheating moves of this sword monster, he suddenly realizes that there is someone who is capable of doing so. She is the one who is making a quiet cleaning motion with her sword. It is a pleading request that he makes to her, asking her to fight that sword monster on his behalf. I concur with Angelica. In the process of approaching the sword monster, she exudes a powerful aura of combat. It has come to Haruka's attention that the sword monster has altered its circular formation after being struck by Angelica's fighting aura. This indicates that the sword monster is finally getting serious. However, after observing Angelica's actions as she ran towards the sword monster, he yelled out, "What is she doing?" It is an extremely risky move to rush through the middle of the road. However, Haruka is taken aback when she deals a single blow to the sword monster, which causes it to split in half. He stated that she was so terrifying when she was an adversary, but it was impressive to think that she would eventually become such a trustworthy ally. While this is going on, the president is yelling from the 51st floor that it is going to happen again and instructing everyone to just put up with it for one more time. When they reached the 51st floor in their pursuit of Haruka, they were confronted by a giant with only one eye, known as the Tyrant Cyclops, waiting for them. On the 31st day, the president and the other individuals were still engaged in combat with the Cyclops. She requested that the young lady provide her with an update on the current state of the damage. When asked about the damage sustained by the front and second line, the girl responded, "It is catastrophic. They won't be able to defend themselves against its subsequent assault." As soon as she heard this, the president became unsteady on her feet. All of a sudden, she became aware of someone yelling at her, telling her that it was far too early to give up. Specifically, Oda and Kakaku were the ones who informed her that they had a concept. Following their conversation, the president stated that she did not believe she would be able to consent to the plan. Kakaku, however, begged her to give him permission to carry it out, and in the end, the president and the other individuals agreed with their plan. After that, Kakaku hurriedly approached the Cyclops while yelling, "Now that it has been decided, let's begin the plan." Despite the fact that the Cyclops attempted to punch him, Kakaku was able to avoid it and instead leap onto its hand. He concluded by saying, "Its power is certainly destructive, however, it's not that fast." After that, he pulled out his sword and ran on its hand, claiming that he could confuse its movement with this, and that he was confident that further assistance from the girls would be sufficient to make this strategy successful. It appeared as though his plan was successful because the Cyclops became confused, which provided him with an opportunity to attack it. But all of a sudden, he became aware of the fact that he had made a mistake because he had failed to recognize that there was another hand on the right. He took a powerful blow from the Cyclops, which caused him to fall to the ground. It dawned on him that he was so weak that he had been under the impression that he could pull it off. In spite of the fact that he had suggested that he would serve as a bait, he was still determined to triumph over the Cyclops. Having said that, now that he had been unsuccessful, it was time for the next step in the plan. Now was Oda's time to launch an assault on the Cyclops. Through the application of his ability, Oda was able to successfully kill the Cyclops by striking it in the eye with all of his strength. As Oda approached Kakaku, he joyfully announced that they had triumphed over their adversary while extending his hand to him. Everyone congratulated them on their victory and said, "As long as we remain united, we will undoubtedly be able to find Haruka." While this is going on, a security guard at the entrance to the labyrinth is yawning and wondering if anything could possibly take place there. Instantaneously, he becomes aware of a large number of mice emerging from the dungeon, and he wonders if they are attempting to escape from something. When he turns around, he is taken aback to see such a large number of monsters emerging from the entrance of the labyrinth one by one. On the other hand, Haruka reports that things are going well, and that he is becoming really motivated. This occurs on floor 84, after he has killed the boss. He discovered a ring of pilgrimage on the finger of a statue that was located on the 91st floor. he discovered a blessing bangle in a Toon's treasure box that was hidden on the 87th floor of the building. Once he had defeated a boss on the 85th floor, the jewel of necromancy was dropped from the boss onto the ground below. When it comes to adventuring in a dungeon, he says with excitement that this is how things ought to be. The ring of pilgrimage is said to bring happiness and protect against misfortune. The blessing bangle has the power to get rid of any curse or disaster, and the jewel of necromancy has the ability to control both life and death. In his mind, if he were to sell these, he would be able to become a millionaire. However, it is possible that he should just use them. In spite of the fact that he is not cursed and his luck has reached its limit, he offers the items to Angelica, who initially declines to accept them for what they are. In his statement, Haruka expresses his desire for Skeleton Sin, who has been afflicted by the darkness, to experience joy. Because of this, he is going to give these to her. Angelica agrees to take the items after he hands them to her and encourages her to not be shy about accepting them. After observing her reaction, he makes the assumption that she is content with the items she has received. The skeleton that she is quite peculiar. After that, he moves quickly in a different direction and informs Angelica that he is going to search for any hidden rooms that may be located in that area. While this is going on, Angelica takes off her helmet, and instead of seeing a skeleton face, we see the facial features of a stunning young woman. After that, she quickly removes the helmet from her head and rushes in the direction of Haruka. At the same time, two adventurers present the report to the guild master, who is located within the town's guild. According to what he says, the labyrinth finally gave way to a stampede of people. He continues by asking, now that it has reached this point, is there no other way to solve this problem besides going up against the boss of the labyrinth? It was frequently questioned as to what the possible causes could be for such a massive stampede to take place. When asked about it, the other adventurer responded that he was unsure, but that they didn't have much time left. After that, the guild master gave Ofter the order to go and make the evacuation of the residents with the highest priority and to guide them so that they would not panic. Furthermore, he gave the order to the Getek to assemble all of the members of the guild at the main gate and instruct them to protect it with their lives. Following the hasty departure of both of them, the guild master let out his aura and assured them that he would attend to the monsters with great care. Ofter returned unexpectedly and reported that there was one more thing to take into consideration. It was the guild master who inquired about that. Ofter responded by saying that those individuals had entered the labyrinth prior to the stampede taking place, and he pondered whether or not there was any connection between the two events. At the same time, Haruka, who was on floor 81, asked in a startled manner if this was an aquarium. It was more akin to a world built on water. On the lower floor, he stated that the monsters were exceptionally powerful. However, on that floor, the floor itself was a challenging environment to navigate through. Haruka was suddenly confronted by a monstrous creature that emerged from the water. Before he could react, Angelica pulled him back and struck the monster with her sword. He was aware of it, but Angelica had already done so. Because he had relaxed his guard at that moment, Haruka expressed his gratitude to her for that. After that, Haruka looked inside the pond and stated that the adversary was currently submerged in water by this point. At level 81, there were a great number of swordfishes, and if they were to attack him at the same time, he would be divided into 3 parts. Haruka believed that in order to defeat these, he needed to take action so that he could slow them down considerably. After that, he utilized his temperature magic to bring the water down to a more comfortable temperature. He noticed that the fish's movements were becoming more sluggish, which led him to the conclusion that the cold was their vulnerability. It didn't take him long to use ice magic to freeze all of the fish that were in that pond. The fishes he encountered continued to freeze, but then their leader emerged and stared at Haruka. He continued to freeze them. Haruka was frightened when he saw it, and he wondered if it was upset with him because he had frozen its family and friends. While Haruka was being assaulted by a massive water wave, the boss appeared to be extremely enraged about the situation. Haruka and Angelica both make an attempt to flee, believing that this is a very serious situation. However, the attack is successful in hitting him. After that, Haruka realizes that the boss monster is going to call forth another tsunami, so he makes use of his earth magic to fashion a thin board in the shape of a leaf. Immediately after he has created it, he begins surfing on the enormous wave. He is amused by the circumstance, and as soon as he is given the opportunity, he rushes towards the boss fish and stabs it to death. He finds the situation to be exciting. After that, he and Angelica continue their ascent to the top of the building until they reach the entrance to the subsequent floor. After that, they will arrive at the 76th floor, and after the water world, they will be entering the fire stage. Simultaneously, after successfully capturing the 54th floor, the president and the other individuals make the decision to go back for a brief period of time in order to replenish their supplies. In light of the fact that they did not come across any monsters, one of the girls expresses to the president that it is quite peculiar. When the president arrived back, he suddenly became aware that the monsters were making their way toward the city. He then instructed everyone to hurry up and come back on time. Following his return, the president observes that a significant number of the soldiers and adventurers have sustained injuries. In light of the fact that she has just witnessed monsters emerging from the labyrinth, she inquires about the situation with the guild master. In response, the guild master states that the stampede has started, just as he had stated previously. With the help of their guild, they were able to prevent the monsters from entering the city, despite the fact that the number of monsters was so overwhelming that it was unbelievable. There is a sigh of relief that the president lets out, but then she hears someone say that it is too soon to feel relieved. According to him, they were successful in fending off the first wave, but the second wave is on its way, and he is uncertain as to whether or not they will be able to keep them at bay this time around. When the president hears that, he is taken aback and questions in a worried manner how they can put a stop to it. She is informed by Gaitek that in order to put a stop to the stampede, someone must travel to the labyrinth and vanquish the dominant boss. Nevertheless, before he could finish saying that, the president and the other individuals responded with "understood," and they hurriedly made their way towards the labyrinth. She believes that they might not be able to accomplish what they set out to do, but if it is Haruka, he will definitely be able to do it. At the same time that she is running at full speed, she is thinking that she needs to relay the information to Haruka in order to save the city. At the same time that Haruka and Angelica are making progress, he asserts that he will not permit himself to be defeated by this heat. After walking for a while, he sits down close to a wall and explains that the intense heat is causing his stamina to be depleted at a rapid pace. As a result, he needs to take frequent short breaks or else his body will not be able to withstand the heat. With the intention of resting, he first makes a hole in the wall, then sticks out his face, and finally uses wind magic to produce a gust of wind. In the meantime, on the 54th floor, the president informs everyone that they have to tell Haruka about the stampede, but that they don't have a lot of time left to do so. She inquires of Oda whether he possesses any magic that could be used to deliver a message. Oda responds with a frustrated tone that if he did possess any magic, he would have used it already. A low voice is heard as the president gets down on her knees and asks, "Where is Haruka?" However, at that precise moment, she hears his voice coming from a well. "This is so nice," she exclaims. Hurrying towards it, she yells out that this is Haruka's voice when she gets there. During the conversation, she indicates the hole and informs everyone that a voice is emanating from it. While she is in the hole, she asks Haruka if that is him, and Haruka hears her statement. Rather, she is totally correct. Her request is that he pay attention to what she has to say, and she explains that the city is currently in a very precarious situation because a stampede has started. To Haruka's surprise, she continues by saying that the guild is doing everything in their power to defend themselves against the monsters, but they have already reached their limit. She explains that it appears that in order to put a stop to the stampede, they need to defeat the boss who is located on the lowest floor, and she asks what they should do. He smiles as he looks at Angelica, who is inspecting the treasure chests, after he has heard about the previous boss. Angelica is checking the treasure chests. He believes that she was confined to the most inaccessible part of the labyrinth by herself, and that she had been there for an undetermined amount of time. Having the knowledge that he must tell a lie in order to safeguard her, he then proceeds to inform the president that he has already triumphed over the boss. After hearing that, the president is taken aback and conveys the same sentiment to everyone else. Oda indicates that the stampede continued on even after that point in time. After that, the president overhears Haruka stating that he has a suggestion regarding how to put a stop to it. In the process of telling her to leave it to him, he is under the impression that he is trying to rescue Angelica from this prison. While the president gets happy hearing that, Haruka, with a serious face, thinks that he will definitely save Angelica and everyone in the city as well. Haruka assures the president that he will keep working his way up to the top of the organization. In response, the president says that everything is fine and that they will do everything in their power to come and join him as soon as they can. Following that, Haruka gives Angelica a call and inquires about the possibility of accelerating their pace. After that, he and Angelica make a mad dash for the top, making sure to stomp on any monsters that come their way along the way. They arrive at the 70th floor in a short amount of time, where they come across a hound with 2 heads named Orthrus. Although Haruka believes that the boss monster on this floor is quick, he believes that they will be successful if he is able to block its sense of smell. He then uses his magic to combine some water with some vinegar that he obtained from the grocery store. He then takes some of the vinegar out of the bottle. Afterward, he throws it at the monster's nose in order to render the monster's acute sense of smell ineffective. As soon as he does that, Angelica does not waste any time in rushing towards the monster and severing its head. Following that, Haruka takes a seat and examines the treasures that he has accumulated up to this point. He tells Angelica that there is something that he wants to do with these items when he returns to the city, and a smile appears on his face as he says this. Because Angelica appears to be concerned about him, Haruka reassures her with a smile that he is still doing well and expresses gratitude to her for checking on him. Because he wants to see everyone, he can't afford to waste time there, even though he is aware that he is putting pressure on himself. Once they reach the 69th floor, they find themselves in a forest stage for the first time. The creature that they come across is a sleep owl of level 69, and it quickly puts Haruka to sleep by employing its magical abilities. According to Haruka, it is unfortunate for him because he is in good health and therefore status ailments will not affect him. Just at that moment, however, he begins to fall to the ground and wonders why he is experiencing such a sleepy feeling. After that, he realizes as he is falling unconscious that he exerted an excessive amount of effort on himself, which caused his abilities to stop working before he even realized it. After some time has passed, he comes to and is perplexed as to what transpired after he had fallen asleep. On the other hand, he is taken aback when he discovers that Angelica has continued to move forward with him. He expresses his regret for not paying attention to her warning earlier, and then he realizes that she is advising him to get some additional rest while she continues to move forward. That makes him happy, and after he expresses his gratitude to her, he goes on to sleep contentedly on her back. On floor 59, Haruka comes down from Angelica's back because he is experiencing an improvement in his condition. During his inspection of the floor, he observes that the ground in that area is in a critical condition. When he steps, he is aware that he must pay attention to where he is stepping. Something is picked up by his presence detection skill, just as he is contemplating returning to the pace they were talking about. Even though it is close by, he claims that it has a nostalgic presence. At the same time, on floor 57, the president and the other individuals are engaged in combat with a boss monster known as Howl of the Universe, which possesses immunity to both physical and magical attacks. Furthermore, this boss monster is immortal, which is a nice bonus. According to the president, they are aware that they are unable to defeat it using their power. Suddenly, she notices someone rushing towards the boss monster at full speed. It appears that there is no hope for the situation. Haruka is the one who makes use of the effect of his gauntlet, which he has improved by compounding it on his gloves. This effect has the ability to nullify both physical and magical immunity. After he has rendered the monster's physical immunity null and void, he proceeds to attack its neck. However, this is not sufficient to kill it. According to Haruka, despite the fact that it is a level 100 boss, it is only a floor side boss, which means that it has no chance of going up against the Labyrinth Emperor, who is in charge of this labyrinth. Angelica is able to kill the monster with ease. After that, Haruka goes to the president and consults with him about what he ought to say. "I am back," or something along those lines. On the other hand, the president extends a warm welcome to him and explains that he arrived so late that everyone is already exhausted from waiting for him. Additionally, the other students extend their warmest greetings to him and inquire about the knight who is standing over there. On the very moment that Haruka is about to respond, the ground beneath him begins to crumble, and he begins to fall once more. The president makes a hasty attempt to seize his hand, but it is already too late to pull it away. It comes as a complete surprise to everyone when Haruka suddenly breaks into a grin because he was already aware of anything. He quickly leaps on the rocks that are falling away from him and manages to get back to his feet, claiming that he had already anticipated the ground to collapse. When she tells him that she thought he was going to fall over again, everyone, including the president, lets out a sigh of relief. When asked about it, Haruka responds with a smug attitude that there is no need to be concerned because he has traps sensing this time. While he is uttering those words, however, the rock that he was standing on begins to crumble, and he falls once more while yelling. His common sense did not allow him to anticipate that this would take place. However, this time the president is successful in grabbing his hand and yelling that she will not allow him to exit the room again. Undoubtedly, she is able to capture him. He is then retracted by her and the other individuals. While Haruka is explaining to the president that he is unable to escape when she grabs him with such force, Hara is under the impression that he has finally been able to get back together with everyone. Therefore, the only thing that remains is to save everyone in the city. During the time that the president and the other girls are celebrating, Haruka Oda brings to their attention the fact that it is far too early to celebrate. This is the hole that he is pointing at. As everyone looks down, they discover that a whole army of monsters is making their way towards the city. Haruka is questioned by the president regarding his strategy for rescuing the city. After taking a look at Angelica, Haruka conveys to the president that she will be the most important factor in rescuing the city. As the president inquires about her identity, Haruka expresses her regret and explains that it is still too early for her to be aware of that information. He orders everyone to hurry up and get back to the city as soon as possible. All of them are moving at full speed. While he is running, the president inquires of Haruka how he was able to prevail over all of those powerful monsters that were located on the ground floor. In his response, he states that he is certain that if he had tried to win using a straightforward method, he would not have been successful. However, if he never stops thinking and continues to look for a way to get around, even someone like him has a chance of succeeding. As soon as they arrive at the entrance to the city, Haruka inquires of the members of the guild whether or not everyone is in good health. This is the response that GIC gives. After that, he compliments him and the others on their ability to make it through the labyrinth. After that, Haruka has a serious expression on his face and tells them that he is sorry to ruin the moment, but the monsters are coming soon, which causes all of them to be shocked. Immediately after that, GIC becomes aware of the monsters and yells out that they are approaching once more. While thousands of monsters are making their way towards the city, everyone is aware that this is the actual stampede that is taking place. GIC yells out in a worried manner, asking how they are supposed to fight against this many people due to the fact that it is hopeless regardless of how one looks at it. Meanwhile, Haruka instructs Angelica to carry out the task. The moment she hears that, she immediately stabs her sword into the ground and creates a massive magic circle around herself. It is Haruka's belief that she has vanquished a number of formidable monsters that were located within the labyrinth. It is without a doubt appropriate for her to become the most powerful ruler because she possesses an overwhelming power that eliminates the monsters and keeps them at bay. So as she is the final boss of the labyrinth, then she ought to be able to accomplish what she set out to do. Afterward, the enormous magic circle engulfs the entire army of monsters in its embrace. It comes as a complete surprise to everyone when the army of monsters vanishes. Angelica is the subject of the president's gaze, and he is perplexed as to who would be that knight. Due to the fact that Angelica is the emperor of the labyrinth and has complete control over all of the monsters, Haruka is under the impression that she has the ability to make all of the monsters vanish. During her escape from the lowest floor of the labyrinth, the cogwheel of balance appears to have malfunctioned, which is likely the cause of the stampede that occurred. She was the most powerful individual within the labyrinth, right up until the point where she was weakened by his manipulation. In spite of the fact that her curse was lifted and she was able to escape the bottom floor, she still possesses the power of the Emperor. Because of this, he was aware that she could use her position as Emperor to put an end to the activities of the monsters. Due to the fact that the monsters in the labyrinth are unable to disobey her orders, it is likely that the massive army of monsters that has disappeared is remaining at their residence because Angelica has the ability to command them to come back. Haruka becomes even more convinced that the city is going to be safe at this point, and on day 37, he is successful in saving both her and the city. Within the residence of the city lord, Myra is advising her father to take a break for a while and to refrain from exerting himself with excessive effort. That is something that her father is grateful for, and he has promised to do it in a moment. Her father stated that the city has undergone a complete transformation ever since that day, which occurred after she had left. He believes that the stampede that occurred the day before was successfully resolved, and this time, not only did he save the entire city, but the city is currently experiencing an unprecedentedly high level of popularity as a result of the large amount of magic stones that he brought to the guild. As a result of the fact that the mushrooms that he gathered are also used as a restorative medicine, the city's reputation for excellence is known all over the world. Following that, he took a sip from his tea and stated that this remote location, which was once the poorest, is becoming increasingly wealthy with each passing day. On the other hand, as the feudal lord, there is nothing more satisfying than this experience. On the other hand, the fact that he just continued living his life at his own pace as if nothing had happened is a little bit of a problem. When Haruka was in his room, a maid approached him and inquired about what he was doing at the same time. When I asked him about it, he responded with a smile and said that he is going to organize an event using the items that he obtained from the labyrinth. Haruka intends to make some money by selling the items that he currently possesses. She is taken aback when she discovers the numerous exclusive items and priceless treasures that are contained within the president's room, as he had instructed others to do. Treasure Mountain is the name that Shimazaki gives to the collection. Everyone is taken aback when Haruka eventually makes the announcement that they are all prepared to go shopping. In his explanation, he states that the items are available for purchase on a first-come, first-served basis. This is something that the boys are excited about because they see it as a competition against the girls. As soon as Haruka gives the signal, the battle for the weapons of the labyrinth begins. In addition, Haruka emphasizes that the payment must be made in cash. However, in the present moment, no one is paying attention to him because they are all competing for the equipment. As he watches the scene unfold, he makes the observation that as soon as everyone saw the rare equipment, they went completely insane and the girls transformed into demons after they learned that the items were on sale. When Haruka finds out that the boys have been completely defeated, she feels sorry for them. After that, he pulls out a treasure chest and hands it to them so that they too can choose whatever it is that they desire. This causes Haruka to be taken aback because everyone hugs him while tears are in their eyes. He can be heard yelling that he is not a treasure. After some time has passed, he thinks to himself with a grin that everyone has at long last received their equipment. Meanwhile, the others are ecstatic about the fact that they are able to live a safer life in this world thanks to these items. Following that, Haruka counts the cash and explains that it wasn't a particularly large amount, but he said that he was also paid from the security job. In addition, even if he does possess the items, his level is not good enough for him to make use of them, which is why it was a smart decision to sell them. The president then approaches him and expresses his gratitude for the excellent work that he has done, as he has brought joy to everyone. She responds with a joyful yes when Haruka inquires as to whether or not she was able to acquire the equipment that she desired. Following that, she expresses her gratitude to Angelica and requests that Haruka introduce the knights to her. After a period of time has passed, the president is taken aback when he learns that the knight is the Labyrinth Emperor, whom Haruka retained due to his professional abilities. She looks at him with a bellicose expression and asks him why he hired the Labyrinth Emperor. The sweating of Haruka begins. The president responds by saying that she is aware of the situation and that she will inquire directly with the Emperor if he does not wish to disclose the reason. She drags Angelica out of the room after a while, even though the president said that she would ask her directly. Nevertheless, she has not yet uttered a single word whatsoever. Suddenly, one of the girls raised her voice and yelled out that they ought to talk about some things and get closer to one another first. Angelica responded by shaking her head and denying that she is a male. This was the first question that the girls asked from Angelica. When they found out that she is a girl and that she is the same age as them, they were overcome with shock. Angelica becomes a friend to the girls after they have spent some time with her, and they talk about going somewhere together the next time they see each other. While this is going on, the president is of the opinion that it was a good idea for her to inquire about everything that they could do in the labyrinth. At the bottom of the labyrinth, she believes that Angelica was by herself to herself. Haruka fought against the darkness and purified her, in spite of the fact that it appeared as though she was being held captive by darkness and was hoping to pass away. Through the use of his hiring skill, he was able to rescue her from the shadows without ultimately killing her. As a result of the fact that he protected them from the darkness as well, she is unable to lodge a complaint because he took her along with him. Angelica is then taken to the bathhouse by her, as she believes that they should also do what they can for her. In spite of the fact that it would only be for a brief period of time, the president believes that it would be nice if the water could cheer up her lonely heart. The president is concerned about Angelica's cleanliness because despite the fact that she is a skeleton, she is still a girl. But then, much to her astonishment, the president notices that the legs are composed of real human legs rather than bones. All of the people in the room look at Angelica with wide eyes as she takes off her armor and reveals her true appearance. That she is not a skeleton is something that they discuss amongst themselves, along with the reasons why she is so beautiful. Afterwards, they exclaim, "Whatever, let's just take a bath." As soon as they realized what had occurred, however, their jaws dropped, and they began to wonder whether or not Haruka was aware of what had transpired. While this was going on, Haruka expressed his delight in the fact that it had been a very long time since he had slept on his bed, and that it certainly felt more comfortable than overcoming the labyrinth. However, he goes on to think that he was unsuccessful because he was unable to locate the pheromone ring, which is a very disappointing thought. In the following sentence, he opens his status screen and says, "But a lot of unexpected things happened. Not only did he advance 6 levels, but a significant number of his skills also advanced. But after that, he clenches his teeth in exasperation because he is aware, based on his previous experiences, that it is of no consequence if he is unable to master the skills, particularly the transfer knowledge. It would be much simpler for him to prevail over his rivals if he were able to make effective use of the ability associated with movement. Consequently, he comes to the conclusion that he must engage in some physical activity and get some rest in order to achieve his goals." After that, on day 38, he is in the ring, and he is thinking to himself that his sparring partner must, of course, be someone who is more powerful than him. Then Angelica would be the best choice. After that, Haruka pulls his staff out of his magic bag and provides Angelica to spar with him. Haruka thinks that in order to master teleportation, making a short-distance teleport might give him some kind of hint. It is necessary for him to become accustomed to Angelica's speed, just as he experienced a vision while he was engaged in combat with her. It is possible that he gets a handle on something. Then he takes the situation seriously and decides to challenge her speed once more, thinking to himself that he will do so. Suddenly, he spots Angelica running towards him, and he makes the decision to use his teleportation ability. But before he could do anything, she makes a powerful blow to him, and the force of the impact causes him to retreat. He stands up and says, with a grin on his face, that he should have used teleportation a little bit earlier. More importantly, however, her speed was significantly faster than he had anticipated it to be. Her true power manifests itself differently now that she is liberated from the shadows. After that, however, he smiles because he has the impression that he could learn something from her speed, and he asks her to keep going for one more time. While the two of them continue their fight, the president and the other people who are watching their battle think that even though they are watching this fight for the purpose of studying it, she is thinking that they are fighting on a different level. Her head begins to spin as she continues to think that they are fighting on a different level. There are no subjects to learn about. Although she is aware that Haruka's level and statistics are fairly low, she is aware that his personal skills are at an entirely new level. When it comes to Angela, the fact that she is the Emperor of the Labyrinth is already a cheat. First and foremost, she is the most powerful competitor in every respect because she is utilizing extremely rare equipment from the lower floor. However, there is one more thing that the president is being curious about at this very moment. Considering that Haruka is able to completely submerge himself in training, it is clear that he has not yet come to terms with it, because Angelica has transformed into a human being. In order to prevent Angelica from being harassed against her will, she sends a signal to the other girls to keep this information a secret. Suddenly, they become aware that Haruka is approaching them despite the fact that his fight has come to an end. The president has a negative impression regarding this matter, and Haruka, as she had anticipated, inquires as to why they do not join him in their training. Haruka tells the girls that they should not be concerned because they will only be bullied a little bit and will be treated as a punching bag for some time, which scares them even more. The girls try to refuse, saying that it is impossible, but Haruka tells them not to worry about it. After that, Haruka is contemplating his fight, while the girls are crying and pleading with Angelica to stop what she is doing. He believes that teleportation is a very difficult ability to master, and as a result, he needs to test things out in a variety of locations, and while he is engaged in battle with monsters. Subsequently, he recalls that he has not cleaned his base for quite some time, and consequently, he makes the decision to return. In a phone call, he informs the president that he is going to go back to the forest and inquires as to whether or not it is okay for him to do so. Afterwards, he asks Angelica if she would also like to accompany him, which causes the president to be taken aback. She is of the opinion that if Haruka goes to the forest with Angelica, then her identity will be revealed without her knowledge. As Haruka bids farewell, as she considers whether there is anything she can do to stop that from happening, the president gives it a lot of thought. Despite the fact that she is shouting Haruka's name, she is under the impression that even if she is successful in concealing her identity this time, it will be revealed sooner or later. Initially, she was concerned that Haruka would discover Angelica's true identity and fall in love with her. However, even if he did fall in love with Angelica, she would have no reason to stop him from doing so. Then she tells him to forget about it and to always remember to treat girls with respect. In the process of coming to the conclusion that sending them off with a smile should be the appropriate response, Haruka becomes perplexed upon hearing that and responds by saying that he does not know what that means, but that he has understood it. When Haruka finally makes his way back to the forest, he reveals that it has been quite some time since he last visited the area. He is under the impression that the sunlight is pleasant, but all of a sudden he becomes aware that something is not quite right. He searches the forest for monsters but is unable to locate any. It is then that he recalls that he has vanquished a significant number of monsters in the past. However, he then begins stretching while referring to the fact that this indicates that he could use this terrain for practice. Taking out his staff, he instructs Angelica to follow him and then he leaves. He moves much more quickly than Haruka anticipated, which comes as a surprise to him. It is because of the training that he received this morning that he is beginning to get a sense of how it is done. The next thing that Haruka does is look at Angelica and inquire about her opinion regarding his move. As she explains, he still has a significant distance to travel. When she was getting closer to him, she slipped and fell because she stepped on the slimy mushrooms. Haruka, however, managed to save her before she fell to the ground by catching her like a princess and preventing her from falling. While Haruka is taking a bath on the same day, he remarks that it is a very different experience to take a bath after having trained and cleaned. Due to the fact that he is already capable of using teleportation to a certain extent, he makes the decision to engage in combat with some goblins the following day. However, he is unaware that a goblin has listened to his words and is now terrified. Nevertheless, Angelica is standing outside the bath when she hears Haruka asking if she would like to join as well. At the same time, Angelica makes her decision. The fact that he emphasizes that she is still a girl, despite the fact that she is a monster, causes her to feel anxious. On the other hand, Haruka is taken aback when she actually opens the door and enters the building. He then tells her to hold on for a second because he is going to finish up very soon. Nevertheless, when he turned around, Haruka was astounded to see a stunning young lady standing in front of him. He could not believe his eyes. He asked himself, why is there a beautiful blonde girl in a place like this, not to mention half naked? He was perplexed by the circumstances. During the time that he was shouting, he looked around and asked, where is the armor president at such an important time? But then he looked at the girl in a calm manner and thought that her body line was something he had witnessed before. It was even the case that her height was identical to that of someone he knew. In a low voice, he inquired of the girl whether or not she was Angelica-san. The girl blushed and looked down in response to his question. After spending some time inside the bedroom, Haruka came to the conclusion that he had been aware of it for a considerable amount of time. Angelica-san was a timid person, and the fact that she was shaking with anxiety caused him to feel the same way. Afterwards, he attempted to calm himself down by asking Angelica if she was able to talk, which caused her to become even more anxious. He observed her attempting to communicate and thought to himself, it would appear that she is still having difficulty having a conversation because she was a skeleton for such a significant amount of time. While she was relating her history through gestures, he became aware of the reason and the person who was responsible for her transformation into the person she is today. It should be obvious, but once a person passes away, they are no longer able to be brought back to life. Obviously, skeletons are considered to be bodies that have passed away. It would appear that it is a being in which a soul and magic engulf the bones, causing it to move. However, as a consequence of the effect of the silver-white armor, her soul and the power of her magic were combined into a single entity, which resulted in her having raw flesh. In addition, the Bangle of Blessing was able to remove the curse and misfortune that had been placed upon her, which resulted in the return of her pure body. The Jewel of Necromancy, which is the power that governs life and death, provided the opportunity to bring her back to life while she was in that state, and the Ring of Pilgrimage provided the opportunity to be resurrected upon her death. When Haruka finally came to the conclusion that he was the one responsible for everything, she expressed her gratitude by saying, so she felt grateful, and that is why she has been helping him. So that's how it is, he thought to himself. However, this indicates that he has already taken her freedom before he even realized it. He mustered up the courage to tell her that he would cancel his manipulation skill because she was no longer a monster. This meant that she could do whatever she pleased because she was no longer a monster. On the other hand, Angelica shook her head and declined, which came as a surprise to him. Haruka realized that she must have been terrified of being by herself for such a long time because she gave him a tight hug from the beginning. She wanted to have a connection with someone, even if it was a connection that was achieved through manipulation because of this reason. After giving her a gentle pat on the head, he spoke up and said, "In that case, let's just keep it as it is, just for a little while. Moreover, given that he had already made up his mind, Haruka reasoned that he ought to make her smile while he is at it. Haruka found himself back in the city on day 40, and he was caught off guard when he realized that the city had become bustling with adventurers, merchants, and street vendors. This realization came as a result of recent labyrinth explorations and training opportunities. He took into account the fact that the city's infrastructure was not adequate to accommodate the city's expanding population. Haruka came up with a scheme. If he were to be able to grow and improve the city, he would be able to amass wealth and live a luxurious lifestyle without being constrained by time constraints. With a sneering grin, he made up his mind to utilize labyrinths as a source of income in order to fuel his ambition. This aspiration was referred to by him as a dream, an adventure, an ideal, and a strategy for making a lot of money. With the intention of obtaining information about the labyrinth from Oda and other individuals, Haruka noticed Angelica rushing ahead. He was so moved by her determination that he pursued her, taking care not to let her get lost in the hustle and bustle of the city. While they were catching up, he suggested that they walk hand in hand in order to remain together. Angelica blushed and agreed with him. As Haruka and Angelica made their way into the inn, they were met with stares from the president as well as the other girls who were present. In the midst of the intense atmosphere, Haruka was experiencing feelings of nervousness and was curious about the reason behind it. The girls made fun of him by implying that he was the reason he was late because he was involved in romantic activities. Almost immediately, Haruka refuted the claim and inquired about further clarification. However, the president signaled for him to look down, which left him perplexed. It was at that moment that Haruka became aware that he and Angelica were still holding hands, which resulted in both of them exhibiting embarrassed reactions as they quickly released their grip. Despite the fact that they were smiling, the girls surrounded Angelica and expressed their interest in the situation. They also suggested that they hold an urgent meeting of the girls in order to get to the bottom of a situation. While the president looked down with a sad expression on his face, Haruka continued to be flustered all. Angelica was led into a room by the girls, who then closed the door behind them for a private conversation. Haruka was left to reflect on the embarrassing situation he was in. When Haruka was looking around, he was thinking about the possible responses that other people might have. He noticed Oda laughing at him, which only served to increase his level of embarrassment. As Oda inquired about his relationship with Angelica, Haruka deflected the question by asking about Oda's relationship with the leader, which left Oda unable to articulate his thoughts. Haruka then eagerly sought information from Oda about lucrative labyrinths, eventually learning about a new dungeon, sparking his excitement and leading him to inquire further about the location. In the room that Oda occupies, he explains that after conducting a few investigations, they discovered that there are a number of dungeons located in close proximity to the city. When Kakaku hears this, he makes the observation that there are a great number of dungeons, and it is impossible for him to conquer all of them by himself. Haruka comes to the realization that in order to amass a significant amount of wealth, it is essential to conquer a great number of dungeons. He proposes that they have a conversation about their strategy and come to the conclusion that each individual will conquer a labyrinth simultaneously, grinding levels while acquiring their share of the treasure. All of them depart to get ready, and Haruka mulls over the possibility of capturing all of the dungeons in order to increase the power of the city. During this time, the girls shed tears after listening to Angelica's story and praising her for her bravery and kindness. She is compared to an angel, and they express their admiration for the connections that she has made within the labyrinth with other people. It is observed by Shimazaki that Angelica is currently acting in a manner similar to that of a follower, content with supporting Haruka even if she does not formally become his wife. The other people are taken aback when Angelica confirms this. Because of the impact that Angelica's words had on them, everyone then turns their attention to the president, which causes her to blush and wonder why everyone is looking at her. On the 41st day of the journey, Haruka and Angelica are making their way toward the new dungeon, but they come across something totally unexpected along the way. The fact that there is a village in such a remote location is incomprehensible to Haruka. As Haruka approaches a man in the village, she extends a warm greeting to him and inquires about the newly discovered dungeon that is located to the south of the neighborhood. The elderly man responds by saying that he is not aware of any dungeons and explains that the region south of there had been affected by a catastrophic flood disaster. The elderly gentleman inquires as to whether or not Haruka is an adventurer, to which Haruka responds in a humble manner that he is merely an underleveled, neat guy. The elderly gentleman expresses his joy at the news, expressing his gratitude to Haruka for coming, and assuring him of his appreciation. Haruka expresses his regret, as he is concerned that he might not be able to live up to the man's lofty expectations. Instantaneously, Haruka becomes aware of something and inquires about it. The elderly gentleman is pleased to proudly present their specialty product, which is sweet potatoes, which are renowned for their deliciousness and sweetness. Haruka declares it's been a while since he had a sweet potato, expressing his excitement. However, the elderly man continues by saying that he not only needs to make additional shipments, but also repair his house, which was ruined by the flood. Upon realizing that the village was also flooded, Haruka begins to think about ways in which she can assist them. Haruka's declaration that he intends to purchase all of the old man's sweet potatoes comes as a complete surprise to the elderly man. With the intention of consulting with the city upon his return, Haruka considers this to be the bare minimum that he can do for the village. In order to bring happiness to the villagers, he purchases sweet potatoes from each and every one of them. As the two of them continue their journey, Haruka considers himself fortunate to have acquired some delicious sweet potatoes. When Haruka arrives at the location that Oda has provided, she discovers a pond that is not depicted on the map. After conducting an inspection, he finds out that the new dungeon is located beneath the water. In light of the fact that Haruka believes it must be due to the flood, she concludes that fighting underwater is not the best alternative. It is through the use of his earth magic that he creates an artificial hose, thereby announcing his intention to remove all of the water from the dungeon.